Yun Chujo answered dejectedly, then pretended to ask unintentionally, Teacher Do. I've seen a demon beast called the fire-eating Xiao on the demon beast map. Does it have any divine or immortal beast blood? A certain Xiao Mogu who was playing with the corner of Yun Chujia's skirt on the ground immediately pricked up its ears. Ever since it saw Yun Chujia's 4 spiritual pets, it had more or less felt inferior. That ugly fat bird was actually the black phoenix, that little mouse was the stone-eating rat, and that red fox already had 4 tails now. In the future, it would definitely be able to turn into 9 tails. Although it did not know what kind of breed that little mushroom was. It did not look simple either. Only it was just a demonic beast. Although its level was higher than theirs now, it would not be able to compare with them in the future. Moreover, it had actually turned into a peeper now. It really did not want to live anymore. Teacher Du smiled and said, speaking of which, the fire-eating Xiao is very close to the fire-breathing cat. However, when it evolved back then, it evolved as a branch. Although the fire-eating Xiao's level is much higher than the fire-breathing cat's, the chance of it being able to awaken the ancestral blood is also very slim. So far I have not heard of any success. Hearing Teacher Du's words, Yun Chujo suddenly understood. No wonder the fire-eating Xiao had turned into a kitten. It turned out that it was related to the fire-breathing cat. The fire-eating Xiao originally had a little flame in its heart, but it was immediately extinguished by Teacher Du's words. It meowed. It was a thin blue mushroom. Yun Chujo asked what she wanted to ask and then said something else. Then the topic changed to Teacher Ma. Teacher Du, I heard that Teacher Ma went missing? I also heard that he was greedy for the things from the Beastmaster division. Is it true? Yun Chujo asked Teacher Du with a gossipy light. Teacher Du glared at her. Who did you hear nonsense from? Although Teacher Ma is a bit of a loner, his character is still okay. Why would he be greedy for the things from the academy? Teacher Ma was in charge of raising the spiritual beast cubs. It could be said that he was conscientious and there was nothing inappropriate about it. It's just that recently, he said that he was about to break through and would occasionally take leave. Oh, so that's the case. Then why did he suddenly disappear? It's really strange. Yun Chujo agreed with her words, but her heart was moved. That Teacher Ma was in charge of the demon beast cubs? Could it be that there was something wrong with her when she was freeloading from the demon beast class that day? Yun Chujo chatted with Teacher Du for a while more. Then she hugged the cat cubs and left. When she reached the demon beast cubs area, Yun Chujo deliberately observed that there was nothing wrong with the demon beast cubs. She was really puzzled. Yun Chujo really couldn't understand it, so she simply didn't think about it anymore. She continued to attend classes and freeloading from classes. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the semester, and the final exam had begun. The final exam, which was held once every 6 months, was extremely important to the Xingqian Academy because the final exam was held in unison with the WA Stone Academy. The 2 academies were secretly competing against each other, so every final exam was a battle of pride between the 2 academies. Yun Chujo wasn't interested in losing face. What she was interested in was the Great Night Luminescent Pearl. The last time, the outer shell of the Xingqian Divine Axe had mysteriously disappeared, or else the Great Night Luminescent Pearl would have long been in her hands. This time, no matter what, she had to get first place. At the pep rally before the final exam, Dean Gongsun gave an encouraging speech. There were also some representatives of the older students who went up to complain about the ugly faces of the WA Stone Academy. The entire Heaven Punisher Academy was in an uproar. It was as if they didn't want to live until they brought down the WA Stone Academy. A certain Joe only had one comment regarding this. They were full of themselves. Yun Chujo yawned when she heard this. What was the point of saying such nonsense? If you have the ability, why don't you increase the reward tenfold? As long as you have enough rewards, why are you afraid that these students won't work hard? You want the horse to run fast and you want the horse to not eat grass. Old Man Gongsun is really stingy. When the crowd was excited, Dean Gongsun finally announced the contents of the test. The test location was the same as in previous years. It was still held in the Tianluo mystic realm on the outskirts of Tianluo City. The method of calculating the results was very simple. The more Tianluo flowers one obtained, the more points one would get. Yun Chujo couldn't help but complain. Picking Tianluo flowers once every half a year. Wasn't the Tianluo flower already extinct? Besides, what was the point of having so many Tianluo flowers? Could it be that they were drying them out to light a fire? Just as Yun Chujo was complaining, she heard Dean Gongsun's explanation. Then she rubbed her nose awkwardly. All right, it was her ignorance and self-righteousness. Fortunately, she didn't say it out loud. Otherwise, wouldn't it be embarrassing? According to Dean Gongsun, the Tianluo flower was an illusion created by the Tianluo secret realm. Although in the eyes of the students the Tianluo flower was real, outside the Tianluo secret realm, the Tianluo flower was just a stone. This kind of stone was called the Tianluo stone. It was extremely sturdy. All the Tianluo stones would be given to Mayor Huang to strengthen the city to prevent demon beasts or external enemies from invading. Yun Chujo thought about it for a moment. The city walls of the heavenly Luo city were indeed made up of some stones with patterns. So that was the heavenly Luo stone. Dean Gongsun added a few more things to take note of. It was nothing more than a ban on flying and the use of talismans and the like. Yun Chujo was numb to it. Although talismans were good, they could not be used in many places. They were really of little value. However, since it was a mystic realm, there might be some rare spirit herbs. It would be best if she could get rid of the 2 herbs that were missing from the transformation pill. Early the next morning, Yun Chujo followed everyone to the outskirts of Tianluo City, which was about 20 miles away. Yun Chujo thought that the so-called Tianluo mystic realm should be very awesome. At the very least, it should have some beautiful enchantment or something like that. However, when Dean Gongsun and Dean Duanmu of the WA Stone Academy jointly opened the Tianluo mystic realm, this fellow could not help but be greatly disappointed. After the 2 principals formed a seal, a hole appeared on the ground. In the words of a certain Joe, it was a dog hole, alright? The size could only accommodate 1 person. Holy shit, how many years and months would it take for 10,000 people from 2 academies to enter? Just as Yun Chujo was complaining, she saw that the dog hole had changed. The dog hole was expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 15 minutes it had turned into a super large dog hole. Yun Chujo stretched her neck and looked inside. It was dark inside and nothing could be seen. It was like a huge black hole. The students entered the black hole according to their grades. It was probably a super large teleportation array. Yun Chujo felt that based on her past experience, there was an 80 to 90% chance that she would be rejected again or something would happen. Therefore, she waited until everyone had entered before she entered the black hole with Xue Wuji and Jin Ji. However, nothing unexpected happened. Yun Chujo and the other 2 successfully entered the Tianluo mystic realm. There were other people at the place where the 3 of them were teleported. Yun Chujo finally heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the Tianluo mystic realm was quite normal and did not target her. Everyone gradually dispersed. The terrain of the Tianluo mystic realm was different every time. Therefore, everyone did not have a topographic map and could only rely on luck. Yun Chujo and the other 2 randomly chose a direction and began their trial journey. Yun Chujo and the other 2 strolled forward unhurriedly. The trial would last for a month anyway, so there was no need to be too anxious. Suddenly, Yun Chujia's spiritual sense transmitted the crying voice of the fire-eating Xiao. Master, they hit me. I can't live anymore. Seeing that there was no one around, Yun Chujo released the 5 silly cuties. Speak, kitten, what's going on? Yun Chujo looked at the crying fire-eating Xiao and asked. Fire-eating Xiao cried miserably. Master, they all hit me. They said I was unnecessary. Take a look. Fire-eating Xiao's heart collapsed. It had wanted to be a spiritual pet obediently, so why would it be bullied? Yun Chujo glanced at the other 4, and each of them lowered their heads guiltily. No one said anything. Yun Chujo pointed at the little red fox. Xiaohong, what's going on? Why are you bullying the kittens? Xiao Hanyo stole a glance at the little black bird and stuttered without saying anything. Yun Chujo immediately realized that the root of the problem was with the little black bird. She pointed at the little black bird and asked sternly, Xiao Hei, tell me what's going on? Xiao Hanyo snorted coldly. It said proudly, I was the one who ordered it. I just don't like it. Why do you always walk it? Why do you treat it so well? We are all much more senior than it, and our bloodlines are much higher. Why do you dote on it? Moreover, what's wrong with its transformation? Why did it transform into a cat? Doesn't it know that Mickey Mouse's sister hates cats the most? After Xiao Hanyo finished speaking, the other three looked like they had a common enemy. That's right, why did this kitten get preferential treatment? They also wanted to go out for a walk. Yun Chuzhou choked. It was not that she doted on the fire-eating Xiao, but she felt that it was more normal to walk the cat. Otherwise, would she be allowed to walk the crow? Walk the mouse? Walk the fox? Or walk the mushroom? Yun Chuzhou touched her nose. If you can disguise yourselves well, I will walk you in the future. Besides, if there is a problem, the solution is, why are you bullying the kitten? Although it was not very popular in the past, now that it has turned over a new leaf, can't you be more magnanimous? You are brothers and sisters, can't you take care of the kitten? Fire-eating Xiao originally looked like a cat bullying others, but when it heard the last few words of Yun Chuzhou, it was instantly dumbfounded. What did she mean by not very likable? What did she mean by brothers and sisters? Could it be that she still had to call those idiots as brothers and sisters? What kind of joke was this? Xiao Hanyo was actually happy as it cried out loudly, "Kittens, from now on, you're the fifth brother. I'm telling you, in the future you better behave yourself, or else I'll beat you up." Xiao Hanyo saw that Yun Chuzhou was glaring at it and quickly changed its words. "I am joking with you. Well, all of you can go into the spirit beast bag. I will accompany master." Fire-eating Xiao did not expect that it was originally going to complain, but in the end, it became a follower. Meow meow meow, it really wanted to die first. Yun Chuzhou warned them for a while, then she put the 4 little black rats into the spirit beast bag, then looked at Xiao Hanyo and said, "Are you sure you want me to walk you?" Xiao Hanyo's eyes widened. "Of course I'm sure. Am I not more noble than that kitten? Master, you walking me will definitely improve your style." Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. "Alright, since that's the case, let's go. Oh right, let me remind you that flying is prohibited in here." "Xiao Hanyo, black-hearted master, you can't play like that." Yun Chuzhou and the other two strolled around in front, followed by a swaying fire-breathing crow. Yes, it was the kind that was as fat as a ball. At first, the little black bird was still holding on, but later it really couldn't hold on anymore. "Wah wah, master, you'd better put me into the spirit beast bag. Didn't you dislike me for not walking you? Why don't you want to be walked now? Are you playing with me?" Yun Chuzhou asked with a cold smile. Xiao Hanyo was terrified. No wonder its black-hearted master was so easy to talk to just now. It was waiting here. Woo woo, how stupid was it to think that it could negotiate with its black-hearted master. Yun Chuzhou saw Xiao Hanyo's drooping head and snorted coldly, putting it into the spirit beast bag. The 5 in the spirit beast bag looked at each other. Xiao Hanyo, who complained, became Xiao Hanyo's underling. The 2 claws of the little black bird, who was stirring up trouble, were almost worn out. Suddenly, it had a feeling that they were brothers in distress. They really wanted to hug each other and cry together. Yun Chuzhou could not be bothered with the 5. She looked at the surrounding environment. This was a valley. Occasionally, she could see students who were undergoing trials. These students mostly formed small groups in groups of 3 to 5. This way, they could take turns to be on guard when they were resting. If they encountered any dangerous situations, they would have more protection. However, the number of Tianluo flowers was really pitiful. Only a few small groups had picked a pitiful few. Perhaps the Tianluo mystic realm would be looted once every 6 months. There were almost no high-grade herbs in it, only some herbs below the mystic rank. Moreover, the level of the demon beasts they encountered was not too high. Yun Chuzhou felt that this trial was of little value and could not be of any use at all. At night, when they camped, everyone consciously made their campsites very close to each other. This was beneficial in guarding against the demon beasts. Yun Chuzhou heard a few senior students chatting. "Why do I feel that this trial is different from the previous one? Yeah, I remember that when we came here half a year ago, there were a lot of Tianluo flowers. Moreover, we would occasionally encounter high-level herbs and high-level demon beasts. Why is there nothing this time? Didn't they say that the Tianluo mystic realm has the ability to self-repair? Yeah, it said that the area of Tianluo Mystic Realm is very, very large. What we saw was just the tip of the iceberg. Therefore, even if we come here once every half a year, there will still be new Tianluo flowers and high-level herbs appearing. Yun Chujo could not help but frown when she heard what they said. Could it be that she had been tricked again? This time, Qiling was smart, and even these people had been tricked as well. Yun Chujo felt that it was unlikely. After all, if the Qiling targeted other people, there would be karma. It would not be stupid enough to bear the karma just to frame her. Then the question came. What exactly was going on? Could it be that they were unlucky and chose a bad direction? Unexpectedly, from the second day onwards, the situation improved. The sky luo flower started to appear one after another. The level of the medicinal herbs and demon beasts also became higher and higher. Only then did everyone relax. It seemed that they had not reached the place before. Yun Chujo and the other two also found a small cluster of sky luo flowers, about 5 or 6 of them. The sky luo flowers were protected by accompanying demonic insects. They were a type of demonic insects called sky luo poisonous bees. Although the sky luo mystic realm forbade flying, these poisonous bees could still fly up to a height of 10 feet from the ground. This kind of poisonous wasp was not very poisonous, but after a person was stung, they would feel dizzy and their combat strength would be greatly reduced. The more worrisome thing was that some demon beasts deliberately hid nearby. Once they found that a person was stung, they would come out to take advantage and attack humans. Therefore, when the students picked the Tianluo flowers, they would be careful to avoid being ambushed by the demon beasts in the dark. Yun Chujo took a closer look at the so-called Tianluo flower. It looked pleasing to the eye, but she did not know what kind of magical power it was. It was a flower in here, but it would turn into a stone when it went out. It was really magical. Yun Chujo signaled Xue Wuji and the other two not to be in a hurry to pick the Tianluo flower. She looked around and found 3 35-level Tianluo megalodon wolves behind a bush. The reason why she was able to notice them was that her spiritual power was higher than theirs, and their teeth were long and white, reflecting the sunlight. It was difficult not to notice them. Yun Chujo could not help but laugh. She waved her claws at the shrub. Can your sneak attack be a little more technical? Your long teeth have been exposed, and you still want to sneak attack us? I advise you to get some mud on your long teeth, or dye them with grass juice the next time you hide. The 3 giant-toothed wolves in the bushes. They looked at their tusks, and sure enough, they did not seem to be in harmony with the surrounding bushes. Then the question was, should they fight or run? Although their spiritual power level was equivalent to that of a human at the 8th level of the Lingxian realm, and the 3 humans on the opposite side were at the 5th, 6th, and 7th levels, they had the upper hand. However, for some reason, they felt that this little human girl was a little strange. They had never heard that humans would give them guidance before making a move. This girl was either sick or hiding some evil intentions. The 3 giant teeth wolves could not make up their minds for a while, so they just stood there and did not move. Yun Chujo could not be bothered with them. Anyway, even if Xue Wuji and Jinji were stung by the giant teeth wolves, she and Dumb Meng could still take care of the 3 stupid wolves. This guy was thinking about another problem. She could control the spiritual insects. Should she capture a nest of Tianluo poisonous bees to establish a temporary contract? With these little things leading the way, it would be too easy to find the Tianluo flower, right? It would be hard to even get first place, right? However, if that was the case, she had to avoid people's eyes and ears so that she would not be exposed. Yun Chujo looked around, but there were no other students nearby. This guy decided to go for it. The simplest way to contract this group of sky luo wasps was to contract the queen bee first. Therefore, Yun Chujo whispered to Xue Wuji and Jinji, "You guys attract the attention of the wasps. I'll go and contract the queen bee." Xue Wuji and Jinji told her to be careful. Then they made a gesture to pick the sky luo flowers to attract the sky luo wasps to attack them. There were only 5 sky luo flowers here, so the number of sky luo wasps was relatively small. Xue Wuji and Jinji could hold on for a while. If they encountered a large group of sky luo wasps, the 3 of them would not be enough. Yun Chujo saw that most of the sky luo wasps had gone to attack Xue Wuji and Jinji. Then she jumped into the beehive on the short tree. There were still a few worker bees left in the beehive. Yoon Chujia's solution to them was very simple. A big bag of chili powder that was emitting black smoke immediately made the worker bees dizzy and knocked them on the ground. The queen bee in the beehive was also choked by the poisonous smoke. Yoon Chujio grabbed the stinger and knocked them unconscious with the kitchen knife. Then, Yoon Chujio established a temporary contract with the queen bee, and everything ended. The queen bee angrily ordered the worker bees to stop. It had also encountered some students who had gone through trials. The worst outcome was that the Tianluo flower had been taken away, but no one had ever had any designs on them. At most, they had only killed a few worker bees. But now it was fucking destroyed. Yoon Chujio took a large kitchen knife and cut a small piece of honey to taste it. The taste was surprisingly wonderful. It was even better than the honey that she had gotten from Xingtian Academy. The queen bee dared not to express her anger. She really did not know what this human little girl wanted to do. Could it be that it was just for the honey? Yoon Chujio shamelessly cut off a large piece of the hive, leaving only the part with the larvae. The 3 Tianluo megalodon wolves behind the bushes craned their necks and looked curiously. This little girl was indeed full of evil. She actually used poisonous smoke to smoke those poisonous bees. It was really bad. However, why didn't the queen bee know how to escape and resist? Could it be that she was blinded by the smoke? Yoon Chujio gave the beehive to Jinji and Xue Wuji, one for each of them. Then she said to the queen bee, "Isn't it just to eat a little of your honey? Look at how stingy you are. As long as you listen to me obediently, I promise to upgrade your little beehive to a super big beehive." The queen bee looked at the few worker bees that were still dizzy on the ground, then looked at the big kitchen knife in Yoon Chujia's hand, and could only compromise and say, "What do you want me to do? It's very simple. You help us find the Tianluo flower, and then you go and hook up with those worker bees to lure them into the encirclement. After killing them, we will split the honey equally." Yoon Chujio said with a smile. The queen bee fell to the ground with a thud and fainted due to anger. Yoon Chujio touched her nose. The psychological endurance of these demonic beasts was really too poor. They would faint at any time. It was really boring. After the 3 Tianluo gargantuan wolves who were watching the show heard Yoon Chujio's words, they looked at each other. Oh God, it was a good thing that they didn't act rashly just now. Otherwise, their ending would be very miserable. Just as they were rejoicing, they saw the little girl slowly walking towards them. "Hey, 3 puppies, how about we do a business deal?" Xue Wuji and Jinji looked at each other. The 3 gargantuan wolves were probably going to be unlucky. The 3 gargantuan wolves were on guard. They felt that this human little girl must be taking some bad water to do a business deal. What business? How could humans and demon beasts do business? Didn't you ambush us just to eat? As long as you listen to me, I promise to let you eat your fill. Do you want to taste the taste of honey? Yoon Chujio took out a beehive and waved it at the 3 gargantuan wolves. The sweet smell of honey drifted into the 3 gargantuan wolves' noses, and the 3 gargantuan wolves could not help but drool. Although the level of spiritual power of the gargoyles was not high, they were gregarious demonic insects and had poisonous needles, so they had no chance to taste the honey. Yoon Chujio broke 3 pieces of the beehive and threw them to the 3 gargoyles. The 3 gargoyles did not find any poisonous smell after smelling it, so they could not help but swallow it. Damn! It was too delicious. They had never eaten such a sweet thing. The 3 giant-toothed wolves were forced to cry. They felt that they had lived in vain in the past. There was actually such a delicious thing in the world. Yoon Chujio was dumbfounded when she saw it. Although she planned to use honey to hook up with the 3 giant-toothed wolves. Wasn't this too exaggerated? They were so delicious that they cried? Compared to them, she, the foodie, could only sigh at her own inferiority. No wonder these 3 heads of teeth were so long. It was because they were too greedy. Yoon Chujio said slowly, "How is it? As long as you are obedient, I guarantee that you will be able to eat such delicious honey every day. As you can see, I have already subdued that group of poisonous bees. If you follow me, do you still worry about not having any honey to eat?" The queen bee who had just woken up heard Yoon Chujio's words and fainted again with a choking sound. This sinister and vicious girl not only made it use the honeybee trick, but also wanted to use their beehives to feed the wolves. She was too despicable and shameless. What kind of sin did she commit in her previous life to meet this pervert? The three heavenly gargantuan wolves were somewhat tempted. With their own strength, they had no way of getting the honey. However, what did this little girl want them to do? Yun Chujo seemed to understand their thoughts. She said with a smile, "Don't worry. As long as you establish a temporary contract with me, I will fulfill my promise. I won't let you do anything. But when we pick the sky luo flowers, you can help us be on guard." The three giant teeth wolves were conflicted. On one hand, they really wanted to eat the honey, but on the other hand, they felt that it was not a wise choice to be controlled by others. Moreover, for the sake of a mouthful of food, they did not even want the moral integrity of a demon beast. Wasn't that a little too shameful? How about this? When we leave the Tianluo mystic realm, I will give you some medicinal pills to stop the bleeding. In this way, in the future, when you are injured, you don't have to go around looking for medicinal herbs to treat your injuries. Yun Chujo said with a smile. Xue Wuji and Jin Ji could almost see the tail wagging behind this fellow. It was like a big-tailed wolf. The three heavenly gargantuan wolves did not know that this was the little ancestor of a pit beast. Initially, the three of them were already itching to make a move. Now that they heard that there were medicinal pills to stop the bleeding, they immediately forgot about their moral integrity. Yun Chujo successfully established a temporary contract with the three gargantuan sky wolves, and a certain Joe's foxtail was revealed. TSK Wolf Big Wolf 2 Wolf 3. I've thought about it carefully just now. It would be a waste of your talents if I just let you guys be on guard duty. How about this? Those who are capable will have to work harder. You guys can be our part-time mounts. In addition, when we encounter the hive, well, leave the poisonous bees that the queen didn't manage to attract to you. You guys go and attract the poisonous bees, then well go and pick the Tianluo flower. The three Tianluo giant-toothed wolves. Question. Is it too late to regret now? I'm waiting online. It's quite urgent. A moment later, Yun Chujo and the other two were munching on fruits as they leisurely rode on their wolves to their next destination. By the way, there were a few Tianluo poisonous bees leading the way. Although Xue Wuji and Jin Ji had seen a certain Zhou pit beast many times, they were still a little confused. How come they not only had a mount, but they also had the Tianluo poisonous bees leading the way to look for the Tianluo flower? Why did it feel like a dream? They met a few groups of students on the way. When they saw Yun Chujo and the other two riding on the Tianluo giant-toothed wolf, they were all speechless. How did they do it? Those three giant-toothed wolves seemed to be of a higher level than them, right? Fortunately, they did not know that the few giant-toothed wolves flying in front of them had also been subdued. Otherwise, they would have doubted their own lives. Zhu Jingtong also saw Yun Chujo and the other two. A vicious look flashed in his eyes. Initially, he wanted to do something in the Tianluo mystic realm. He did not expect that this wretched girl had actually subdued three giant-toothed wolves. It seemed that he could only find another opportunity next time. In order to avoid the crowd, Yun Chujo deliberately let the Skynet poisonous bee lead them to a place where there were no people. Yun Chujo hid behind a bush and saw a Skynet flower in front of her. Next to the Skynet flower was a pile of rocks, and a huge beehive was built on top of the rocks. Yun Chujo looked around and did not find any other demon beasts. It was probably because the beehive was too big that no demon beasts dared to come and pick up scraps. Yun Chujo released the queen bee. It's time for you to use your charm. Pick up as many as you can. I believe that you are the most beautiful queen bee in Tianluo mystic realm. You have to believe in yourself too. Queen bee, can it not speak? Can it faint again? Brother Wuji, take this bag of chili noodles. After the queen bee has lured the worker bees over, light a fire and smoke them. Yun Chujo handed a bag of chili noodles and flint to Xue Wuji. Then Yun Chujo turned her gaze towards the three gargantuan sky wolves. In a while, you guys will be responsible for attracting the remaining worker bees away. After I've taken care of the queen bee, you guys will be safe. The three gargantuan sky wolves felt that they might not live past today. If they were given a second chance, they would definitely say one word to this sinister, vicious, and shameless little girl, scram. If they had to add a deadline before the word scram, They hoped that it would be 10,000 years, no, a million years. Yun Chujo finished dividing the work and released the queen bee. The queen bee flew shyly towards the cluster of sky luo flowers. All the demon bees were from a matriarchal society, and they had a fanatical obsession with the queen bee. Therefore, almost all the queen bees were not allowed to leave the nest to avoid attracting the attention of other worker bees. When the workers saw the queen bees, they were immediately dazed and rushed toward the queen bees. The queen bees flew toward the place where Xue Wuji was hiding according to the plan. At the same time, 3 giant teeth wolves rushed to the front of the hive, which immediately attracted the crazy attacks of the workers who were left behind. The 3 giant teeth wolves ran as fast as they could. Yun Chujo used the same trick again. She used the poisonous chili smoke to lure the queen bee out and then killed it. Once the queen bee died, the worker bees immediately lost their backbone. The queen bee that Yun Chujo had subdued accepted them as a matter of course. Yun Chujo divided the beehive into 2 parts. Half of it was kept in her bag, and the other half was kept in her spirit beast pouch for the queen bee and worker bees to share. From that day onwards, Yun Chujo and the other 2 began to release the queen bee crazily. They controlled the worker bees, took the beehive, picked the gargantuan flowers, and released the queen bee in an endless cycle. The queen bee that was subdued by Yun Chujo was shy at first, but later on she fell in love with this beautiful bee model. This was a good way to quickly develop and expand the harem. Now it had become the most powerful queen bee in the Tianluo mystic realm. None of the queen bees had as many subordinates as it had. It was a well-deserved queen bee. The 3 giant-toothed wolves finally understood one thing. It turned out that no matter how delicious the food was, they would get sick of it if they ate it all the time. They felt that they would never want to eat honey in their entire lives because, well, their teeth hurt. Yun Chujo looked at the Tianluo flowers in her storage ring and felt that it was about time. For the sake of sustainable development, it was better not to continue picking Tianluo flowers. This guy was counting the days. Less than half a month had passed. What was he going to do for the remaining half a month? Yun Chujo decided to use the remaining half a month to carry out the trial. This was a good opportunity. Jinji and Xue Wuji naturally did not have any objections. After all, the previous half a month was no different from playing. They did not really fight. Hence, wherever the 3 of them passed, demon beasts were in trouble. Could this be called a trial? Which trial was surrounded by a large group of Skynet poisonous bees? Which trial was beaten half to death and didn't give them a quick end, yet they still had to continue fighting? Which trial was tormented to the point where they had no hope of living, yet they were forced to establish a temporary contract? What did you say? You want to protect the dignity of the demonic beasts, and would rather die than submit? What a joke. Let's not talk about the issue of unyielding first. We can't stop that smelly girl from opening her mouth. After making the beasts dizzy, they were contracted. When they came back to their senses, it was all for naught. Therefore, Yun Chujo and the other 2 tried to contract the demonic beasts along the way. Yun Chujo felt that the spirit beast bag that the pretty boy gave her was really a treasure. It contained so many demonic beasts, but it only occupied a small space. Little sister Jo, why did you contract so many demonic beasts? Xue Wuji asked in confusion. Yun Chujo blinked her eyes. I'm not afraid of anything. Who knows if the Qiling here will play tricks. I'm also worried about Lu Jinluan and her sister. I'll feel more confident if I contract more demonic beasts. Xue Wuji finally understood. He thought to himself, let's not talk about the Qiling first. If Lu Jinluan and her sister came to find trouble, it would be like asking for a beating. Not to mention those demonic beasts. Those Tianluo poisonous bees could scare them to death. As soon as Yun Chujo finished her words, more than 10 people walked over from afar. The leaders were Lu Jinluan and Qiling. Yun Chujo narrowed her eyes. She really couldn't help but mutter. When Lu Jinluan saw Yun Chujo and Qiling, she immediately led her people to surround the 3 people in the middle. Bitch! You didn't expect this day to come, did you? The humiliation you gave me last time, this time I will take back both the principal and interest. Kneel down. Lu Jinluan's beautiful face was full of malevolence. Yun Chujo looked at her as if she was an idiot. Lu Jinluan, are you crazy? Do you think that everyone in the four seas is your mother? Do you think that others have to do whatever you say? Lu Jinluan was so angry that her hands were trembling. Bitch. Fine, fine, I'll let you be stubborn. Let's all attack together and kill them all. Hearing Lu Jinluan's words, those people didn't make any movements but looked at Lu Pinyin. Lu Pinyin frowned. If it was only Yun Chujiu and the other two, they could have killed them without anyone knowing. But he didn't expect them to subdue the three giant teeth wolves. If they really fought, they might not be able to kill all of them. If the news was leaked, the Yi family wouldn't let it go. Lu Jinluan saw that Lu Pinyin didn't say anything and was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Brother, what are you thinking about? Why don't you let everyone kill them? Lu Pinyin gave her a look and then said to Yun Chujiu, Yun Chujiu, as long as you obediently apologize to my sister, I won't make things difficult for you on account of the relationship between the two families. Yun Chujiu curled the corners of her lips. I'll give you the same words. As long as you give me all the Tianluo flowers on you right now, I'll spare you. Otherwise, I won't be polite. The people behind Lu Pinyin burst into laughter when they heard Yun Chujiu's words. Was this Yun Chujiu stupid? Although they had 3 Tianluo gargantuan wolves, they would definitely be at a disadvantage if they really fought. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being impolite. Lu Pinyin clenched his teeth. It was very difficult to deal with Yun Chujiu outside of the Sky Luo arcane realm. So he had to seize the opportunity. Jin Ji and Xue Wuji's eyes flashed with gloating. They would soon regret it. Even the 3 Sky Luo gargantuan wolves looked like they were watching a good show. These humans were really stupid. Did they think that this little devil was stupid? If there was no backup plan, did they think that this little devil would obediently wait for them to make a move? Just as Yun Chujiu was about to release the gargantuan wasps to deal with these people, she heard a voice calling for help from afar. Moreover, the voice sounded rather familiar. Yi Bingyu? Lu Jinluan and the others also turned their heads to look. They saw a woman desperately running towards them. She looked very disheveled and there were some blood stains on her body. It was Yi Bingyu. Yi Bingyu saw Yun Chujiu and hurriedly shouted, Little Jiu, quick! Run! There's a monster! Lu Jinluan curled her lips and thought to herself, what a waste! How could there be a monster in this secret realm? It was nothing more than a demonic beast. Her heart moved. Could this Yi Bingyu be deliberately lying and trying to help Yun Chujiu and the others escape? Brother, this Yi Bingyu must be spouting nonsense. She's just trying to help Yun Chujiu and the others escape, Lu Jinluan said to Lu Pinyin. Lu Pinyin also felt that the monster Yi Bingyu was talking about was impossible to exist. A cold smile appeared on his lips. This Yi Bingyu had been treating him coldly recently, so he could teach her a lesson. In the blink of an eye, Yi Bingyu had already run to the front of the crowd. She said anxiously, Are you all stupid? Run! The people who were with me were all killed. Lu Jinluan curled her lips. Yi Bingyu, even if you want to help Yun Chujiu, this bitch, get out of here. Can you think of a more reliable excuse? How could there be a monster in the Tianluo arcane realm? It was nothing more than a high-level demon beast. There are so many of us, why would we be afraid of a demon beast? Yi Bingyu was so anxious that her eyes were red. Believe it or not. Little Joe, let's go quickly. Otherwise it will be too late. Yun Chujiu saw Yi Bingyi's expression and knew that she was not lying. She rolled her eyes and said, Sister Bingyu, come over here. I have something to tell you. Yi Bingyu was so anxious that she was about to cry. What time was it? What was she talking about? She could only walk into the encirclement. Just as she was about to ask Yun Chujiu what was going on, Yun Chujiu pulled her onto the wolf's back. Then she shouted, The wind is tight. Add some ingredients. Blah blah blah. Upon hearing this, Xue Wuji and Jin Ji took out 2 large packets of chili noodles and threw them at the few people who were blocking their way. After these few days, the 3 giant-toothed wolves had already understood Yun Chujiu and the others' tricks. Therefore, when Yun Chujiu shouted, they held their breath and rushed forward with their eyes closed. The people that Lu Shi and his sister brought did not know that there was such a despicable trick like chili noodles in this world. They choked until tears flowed down their faces. By the time they reacted, Yun Chujiu and the others had already disappeared. Cough, cough. Go after her. Go after her. Find that bitch and he'll tear her into pieces. Cough, cough. Lu Jinluan shouted as she coughed. Lu Pinyin and the others were about to go after Yun Chuzhou when they heard someone scream in fear, "Monster! Monster!" Everyone turned around and saw a monster that they had never seen before crawling towards them quickly. The monster was the size of a small hill. It also had arms and legs that looked like those of an octopus in the sea. It danced up and down. It was hard to tell how many arms and legs it had. Moreover, there were a few students on some of its arms and legs. It seemed that it was already dead. The monster's entire body was blood red in color. It let out a strange hissing sound from its mouth. Lu Jinluan and the others were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. They finally understood why Yi Bingyu said there was a monster. This was indeed a monster that they had never seen in the demonic beast encyclopedia. After everyone reacted, they ran away. However, it was still too late. The monster's limbs could actually grow longer, and more than 10 of them suddenly stretched out and wrapped everyone up. Everyone took out their weapons and hacked at the monster's limbs in an attempt to escape. However, they did not expect that the monster's limbs were extremely hard. No matter how they hacked or burned it, there was no damage at all. Instead, everyone was strangled until they could not breathe. The monster hissed as it stuffed a student who had already died into its mouth. When Lu Jinluan saw the scene in front of her, she directly fainted from fright. The rest of the people weren't any better. They were simply regretting what they had done. If they had listened to Yi Bingyu and followed her to escape, they wouldn't have ended up like this. It could only be said that they had brought this upon themselves. The monster had eaten 4 to 5 people. It was probably full, so it didn't continue to eat the rest of the people. It only used its wrists and feet to strangle them in case they escaped. After Lu Jinluan woke up, she found that her life was not in danger for the time being. A vicious look flashed in her eyes. "It'll bring you to find more people. Then can you let us go?" The monster's eyes rolled around, but there was no reaction. Among the people who escaped in front, there is a little girl with a heavenly thunder spirit root. You will definitely like her. In order to deal with Yun Chuzhou, Lu Jinluan specially inquired about many things about Yun Chuzhou, including the matters in the Divine Axe Heavenly Pit. She felt that since Shui Mo liked people with a heavenly thunder spirit root, this monster might also like them. Sure enough, the monster made a hissing sound, obviously very excited. Lu Jinluan pointed to the west. They ran in that direction. She was ruthless in her heart. Even if she didn't survive in the end, Yun Chuzhou wouldn't be able to leave alive. And that Yi Bingyu. She had wasted so many years trying to please her. She actually turned hostile and refused to acknowledge her. They all deserved to die. The monster hissed a few times and then quickly crawled in the direction that Lu Jinluan pointed. At this moment, Yun Chuzhou and the other 3 were desperately running. Anyway, Yun Chuzhou had many contracted demon beasts. She specially picked the fastest ones as mounts and ran forward desperately. After listening to Yi Bingyi's narration, Yun Chuzhou felt that the monster was definitely not simple. Moreover, there might be a huge conspiracy behind it. Oh my god! This damn trial could only be completed after a month. She had to find a safe place to stay. Otherwise, she would definitely die. Along the way, she also met some other students. Although Yun Chuzhou was not kind, she could not just watch them die. Thus, she stretched her neck and told them that there were monsters chasing after them. Unfortunately, some people didn't believe her at all. They thought that Yun Chuzhou was just scaring them. However, there were also some people, especially those from the Heaven Punisher Academy. When they thought about the matter with the Divine Axe Pit, they hurriedly followed Yun Chuzhou and the others to escape. Yun Chuzhou ran as she pondered where to hide. That monster must be very familiar with the Tianluo mystic realm. She couldn't hide from it, and it would catch up with her sooner or later. Yun Chuzhou recalled the appearance of the monster described by Yi Bingyu. Since it had many arms and legs, the more complicated the terrain was, the more disadvantageous it would be. Therefore, Yun Chuzhou commanded the demon beast to run towards a dense forest. The students following behind Yun Chujio were all panting from exhaustion, but they gritted their teeth and endured it. That was because they saw that Yun Chujio did not dare to stop for even a moment, which meant that the monster must be very scary. Otherwise, Yun Chujio, the little demon, would not be so nervous. Finally, everyone entered the dense forest. Yun Chujio and the other three did not blush or pant, because they had free mounts. Everyone gathered around and asked about the monster. Yi Bingyu gave a brief description. Just as she and a few students were about to pick the sky luo flower, they suddenly saw those sky luo poisonous bees abandon their nests and fly away like crazy. Even the queen bee also ran away. Just as they were feeling strange, they saw that huge monster and then ran away with their lives. Yi Bingyu was able to survive because she had the defensive immortal artifact given to her by the Min Shi. Moreover, she was the furthest away from it at that time. Otherwise, she would have been caught long ago. When everyone heard Yi Bingyi's words, a huge panic rose in their hearts. They had never heard of any demon beast having limbs. That was a characteristic of the demon beasts in the sea. What exactly was that thing? Why did it appear in the Tianluo arcane realm? Before everyone could recover from their shock, they felt the ground tremble slightly. The student in charge of guarding the treetops jumped down and said in fear, "Yes, it's that monster. It's coming." Everyone immediately panicked like headless flies. They did not know what to do. Everyone looked at Yun Chujio. Since she could kill Shuemo, she could definitely kill that monster this time. The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. "What are you all looking at me for? I'm just a weak chicken at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm. What can I do?" Lackey Li Huan immediately said obsequiously, "Miss Yun, you are resourceful, we all believe in you. We will do whatever you say. Isn't that right?" Most of the students who ran over were first-year students, and they all agreed. The rest of the senior students and the people from the Hua Stone Academy remained silent, ready to see how things would go. Yun Chujio glanced at those people. Her small face was very gloomy. "People are selfish. If you don't believe me, then please choose another place to stay. After all, this forest is very big. I don't want to wait for the monster to come in because someone doesn't listen to orders and implicates us. Why are you acting like a big shot? Do you really think you're so great? Let's go." Some students left angrily. Yun Chujio looked at the remaining students and said, "That monster has many arms and legs. Its movement will be restricted in this forest, so our best choice is to fight it in the forest." Everyone nodded and felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. No wonder she ran here to hide. This time, Yun Chujio continued, "That monster's arms and legs can be extended, but I think there is a limit. When the time comes, we will try our best to attack from afar and find its weakness. When we attack later, we will work in groups. This way, we can maintain sufficient vigilance and combat strength to avoid being hit by the monster." Yun Chujio divided the group into 3 groups. Shi Shuewuji and Jinji each led a group. Just as they finished their discussion, they heard a hissing sound. The monster had already entered the forest. Yun Chujio waved her hand at the group. The group jumped onto the tree and looked ahead vigilantly. Yun Chujio gestured to a few of the students, indicating for them to change trees. Although the students did not understand Yun Chujio's intention, they still obediently changed a few trees. They saw a monster the size of a small hill climb into the forest. Its limbs were entangled with more than a dozen people, and some of them were people who did not listen to Yun Chujio's words and ran away. The students on the treetops rejoiced one after another. Fortunately, they chose to believe Yun Chujio, or else they would be dead for sure. Among those people, most of them were dead bodies. Only one woman was alive. With a cold smile on her face, she shouted coldly, "Yun Chujio, come out. Don't think that you can survive by hiding inside. You are dead for sure." Everyone was very puzzled. That woman was wearing the clothes of the Hua Stone Academy. Why did she look like she was with the monster? Yi Bingyu was so angry that she gritted her teeth. This Lu Jinwan was really crazy. Was she crazy? The monster might have felt that the corpses were a little inconvenient, so it actually sent them into its mouth and swallowed them. Everyone felt nauseous when they saw this. Although the demonic beast was also very cruel, the monster in front of them inexplicably made people feel disgusted. In the end, the monster only carried Lu Jinluan. The rest of the limbs began to dance violently. The trees that were hit by the limbs began to break. Only some trees that were made of hard materials survived. At this time, the students finally understood why Yun Chujo asked them to change the trees. It was because the trees that they were on before were not made of hard materials. If they were hit by the limbs of the monster, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yun Chujo carefully observed the monster. Other than a dozen limbs, there were 4 legs under the monster's body. However, there was no hair on its body. It looked like an octopus with 4 legs. No matter how she looked at it, it was very strange. She did not know if the monster had any other attacking methods other than using its limbs. She had to be careful. Yun Chujo waved her hand at her team, and everyone began to attack the monster with their spiritual power. Most of them chose to attack the monster with their spiritual power. This way they could maintain a certain distance from the monster, and the power would be stronger. Yun Chujo was the exception. She kept shooting purple spiritual needles at the monster's eyes. The monster was very cunning. It used its limbs to wrap around Lu Jinluan, and used her body to block everyone's spiritual attacks. At this time, no one cared about Lu Jinluan's life. Moreover, she was obviously with the monster, so it was better for her to die. Therefore, after a round of spiritual attacks, the monster was unharmed, but Lu Jinluan was completely dead. She didn't even close her eyes before she died. She didn't understand why she ended up like this. Could it be that Yun Chujo was really the favored child of Tian Dao, and all those who went against her wouldn't have a good ending? Yun Chujia's spiritual power needle succeeded. Although it didn't cause any substantial damage to the monster, it made the monster cry out in pain and became even angrier. Yun Chujo was delighted and gestured at everyone. Everyone understood and began to aim their spiritual power attacks at the monster's eyes. After the monster sensed everyone's intention, it began to hit the spiritual beasts with its tentacles. The tentacles were very strong, and the spiritual beasts were scattered. Just when Yun Chujo was about to let the next wave of people attack, the monster actually turned around and ran away. Everyone was very puzzled. The monster was not at a disadvantage, so why did it run away? It was really strange. Yun Chujo stood on the treetop. After the monster left the jungle, it actually went back the way it came. Yun Chujo did not dare to slack off. She arranged a few people to be on guard while the rest went down to the ground. What's going on? Why did the monster suddenly leave? Is it afraid of the moon? But I've never heard of any demon beasts that are afraid of the moon. Don't demon beasts like to move at night? Jinji said in confusion. Everyone agreed. They felt that it was not because of the moon. Moreover, that monster did not fall into a disadvantageous position. Obviously, it was not because of fear. Then what was the reason? Yun Chujo frowned. No matter what it is, we can't leave this forest. Once we leave the forest, we can only let it slaughter us. Everyone nodded and agreed. After dinner, they took turns to meditate. Suddenly, the student in charge of guarding the tree said in horror, "That monster is back. There's another one." Yun Chujo was shocked. She jumped onto the treetop to take a look. Sure enough, there was another monster beside the monster. It looked the same except that it was slightly smaller. It turned out that the monster had gone to call for reinforcements. With the help of another monster, the two monsters quickly swept through a large area of trees and crawled towards where everyone was hiding while hissing. Everyone started to panic. It was difficult to deal with even one monster. If 2 monsters came at once, wouldn't they be finished? Fortunately, Yun Chujo arranged it well. One of the 3 groups of people could rest for a while, but the 2 monsters did not gain any advantage. For hours later, the 2 monsters were probably tired and retreated out of the group's attack range, lying on the ground to rest. The group finally let out a sigh of relief and began to take turns to rest. After 2 hours, the 2 monsters began to attack again. 2 hours later, the 2 monsters retreated to rest. The cycle continued until the sky was bright. Both sides had been in a stalemate and neither side had gained the upper hand. However, a large part of the trees in the forest had been destroyed by the 2 monsters. If they dragged on for too long, Yun Chujo and the others would be at a disadvantage. Just like that, the two sides were in a stalemate for 3 days. On this day, during the break between the truce, the students in charge of guarding the forest climbed down from the treetops in fear. They walked to Yoon Chujia's side and said a few words. Yoon Chujia's expression suddenly changed. She jumped onto the treetops and looked into the distance. She saw that the trees in the other 3 directions started to break. Although she could not see what exactly was happening, Yoon Chujio had a bad guess in her heart. There were probably monsters from the other 3 directions rushing over here. If these monsters formed a circle, they would be dead for sure. Many people jumped onto the treetops. They had the same thoughts and concerns as Yoon Chujio. They looked at Yoon Chujio. Should they stay here or find another way out? Yoon Chujio was in a dilemma. There were less than 300 people here. If they did not rely on the terrain, they might not even be able to deal with these 2 monsters. What should they do? Is there another forest nearby? Yoon Chujio asked the group. The group shook their heads. The area they were teleported to was mainly a valley. There was only this area of the forest, and the rest were scattered trees. Yoon Chujio knew that her decision was related to their lives, so she did not make a decision right away. Instead, she closed her eyes and began to think. Everyone consciously did not disturb her. They stared at their surroundings vigilantly. At this moment, the sound of footsteps could be heard from afar. Some people ran over in a sorry state. Some of them were those who had left the team previously, and some of them were those who had been forced into the forest by the monsters. When those people saw Yoon Chujio and the others, they immediately sat down on the ground. A place with many people would always give them a sense of security. Yoon Chujio opened her eyes and glanced at those people. Swear it. If you don't listen to my arrangements, you will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Those people showed an indignant expression. Yoon Chujio, don't go too far. This is not your territory. What right do you have to make us swear to listen to you? What right do I have? Just because you came back to us to ask for help. Aren't you all powerful? Then why did you turn back? I don't want to spoil the whole pot of soup because of a piece of rat poop. If you swear to stay, if you don't swear, leave this place immediately. Yoon Chujio's face showed a cold expression. On the battlefield, what they were afraid of was not the enemy being strong or the enemy being weak, but they were afraid that they would not listen to orders, and they were afraid that the internal opinions would not be unified. It was unknown whether those people were intimidated by Yoon Chujio's cold expression, or if they had no other way to survive other than relying on Yoon Chujio and the others. In short, they were all unwilling to make a poison vow. Yoon Chujio divided everyone into 4 groups again. She separated the people who came later so that they would not gather together and cause trouble. Yoon Chujio made Yi Bingyu the leader of the 4th group. Then she continued to think of a way to escape. In fact, if it was just her, she did not have to worry at all. At most, she could hide in the Great Void Mirror. But what about the others? Not to mention the others, Shuewuji Jinji and Yi Bingyu had to deal with them. Could they just watch them be eaten by the monsters? According to those who escaped, there were 2 monsters in every direction, which added up to 8 monsters. If they fought head-on, they would definitely lose. They had to find another place to occupy the terrain, but where should they go? Yoon Chujio was so anxious that she wanted to bang her head against a tree. Because time was limited, once the 8 monsters surrounded them, they would not be able to get out. Some people saw that Yoon Chujio could not come up with a solution, so they could not help but gossip. TCH, do you really think you are that capable? If you can't do it, don't occupy a good place. Let whoever can do it go. That's right. Isn't he just a new student at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm? Last time at the Godly Axe Heavenly Pit, I guess it was just a blind cat meeting a dead rat. In fact, it was just like that. Yoon Chujio's eyes turned cold, and she said to the crowd, "Tie them up for me, and well feed them to those monsters when we get out." Although the crowd felt that what Yoon Chujio said was inappropriate, they still tied up those people who were gossiping. Those few people first cursed, and then began to beg for mercy with tears and tears streaming down their faces. Yoon Chujio did not even look at them. It would be a good thing if they did not kill these people who were trying to bewitch the morale of the army. It was only right to scare them. Shui Wuji curled his lips and got someone to use a rag to cover the mouths of those few people. Instantly, everyone quieted down. They originally thought that Yun Chujo was smiling and would not be serious. Only now did they know that military orders were not just for show. Just as Yun Chujo was frowning, she suddenly had a thought. Just because they didn't know a good place to hide, it didn't mean that the demonic beasts didn't know. They were the original residents of this place, so they must be very familiar with the terrain here. Therefore, Yun Chujo asked the demonic beasts if there was a good place to hide. The demonic beasts also knew that if Yun Chujo died, they would also be finished. Moreover, even if they could escape, these monsters would eat them in the future. Therefore, these demonic beasts thought hard and came up with their own suggestions. Yun Chujo filtered out some ridiculous suggestions, such as digging a hole to bury herself or a rat hole. However, the words of an inescapable earth-shattering bear made her eyes light up. According to the inescapable earth-shattering bear, there was a hidden cave dozens of miles away from the forest. The entrance of the cave was not very wide, but after passing through the tunnel, it was very spacious. Yun Chujo felt that this cave was very good. Because the entrance was narrow, the monsters were huge and difficult to enter. When the time came, they could attack the monsters in the tunnel. As long as they delayed until the end of the trial, they would naturally be ejected out, and then the crisis would be resolved. Yun Chujo thought of this. She said to the crowd, "There is a hidden cave about 30 miles southeast. We will break out of the encirclement in that direction. Everyone move quickly and hide. We must reach that cave before the monsters discover us." The crowd nodded and began to retreat in the direction that Yun Chujo had told them. Of course, the few people who were tied up were also released. They did not dare to speak anymore and obediently followed the crowd to retreat. Although the group tried their best to hide their tracks, the two monsters in front of them still discovered them. They quickly knocked down the trees while hissing and sending messages to the other monsters. Yun Chujo gritted her teeth. Ignore them, run. Everyone knew that if they ran one step slower, they might lose their lives. Therefore, they all desperately followed behind Yun Chujo and ran quickly in the dense forest. Yun Chujo deliberately chose the middle area between the two monsters to break out of the encirclement. Fortunately, this dense forest was large enough. Although the two monsters had received the news, when they rushed over, they had already escaped for several miles. The monsters were so angry that they hissed. They gathered together and chased in the direction where everyone was escaping. Yun Chujo followed the guidance of the heaven and earth splitting bear and finally found the cave entrance that was covered with layers of vines. Everyone entered the cave in a single file. The entrance of the cave was indeed very narrow, and only 3 people could walk side by side. Yun Chujo was very satisfied after observing the tunnel. This tunnel was not straight, but winding, which was more conducive to the ambush. The only difficulty now was how to deal damage to the monster's limbs. Although everyone's spiritual attacks were not completely useless, their effects were very limited. No matter what kind of spiritual attacks they used, they could not deal any substantial damage to the monster's limbs. Yun Chujo was very resentful of the little flame. Why was she sleeping all of a sudden? Otherwise, with the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, she might be able to burn off the monster's limbs in a minute. Yun Chujia's eyes lit up as she thought about it. The last time when Shueimo hid in the stone egg, she used a large kitchen knife to cut open the stone egg. Then could the large kitchen knife cut off the monster's limbs? The more Yun Chujo thought about it, the more excited she became. She was actually looking forward to the arrival of the monsters. Thinking of this, Yun Chujo took out her big kitchen knife and muttered, "Big kitchen knife, this time it's all up to you." The students around Yun Chujo saw her eager expression and heard her muttering. They were all dumbfounded. Could it be that she wanted to use this big kitchen knife to cut the monster's limbs? Although the kitchen knife had cut the stone egg last time, they still felt that it was a fluke. Could it cut the monster's limbs this time? At this moment the ground began to shake, and it was getting more and more intense. Yun Chujo signaled for everyone to step back. Then she held the kitchen knife and carefully observed the situation. There was an intense hissing sound coming from the entrance of the cave. It was probably the monsters talking. After a while, a tentacle tentatively reached in. A glimmer of light flashed in Yoon Chujio's eyes. This was her chance. Yoon Chujio raised her kitchen knife and slashed at the tentacle. Poof! After the tentacle was cut off, the black liquid inside sprayed onto the stone wall. Seeing that the kitchen knife was effective, Yoon Chujio was overjoyed. Just as she was about to chop off another part of the tentacle suddenly retracted. Moreover, there was a shrill cry from the monster outside the cave. It was obviously in great pain. The students behind Yoon Chujio immediately cheered up. Those monsters had suffered a loss. It was estimated that they would not be able to extend their limbs in for a while. They could finally catch their breath. After waiting for a while, Yoon Chujio saw that the monster did not take any further action. She asked the students to stay alert here and then walked into the tunnel. The tunnel was not very long, about 500 feet long. At the end of the tunnel was a large stone room, which was more than enough to accommodate 400 people. Everyone was meditating and resting. When they saw Yoon Chujio come in, they all asked about the situation. Yoon Chujio gave a simple explanation. Although she was a little worried that the strange feature of the big kitchen knife would attract the attention of others, it was not good to hide it at this time. After listening to Yoon Chujio's explanation, everyone could not help but feel a little more at ease. Someone said, "Miss Yoon, since your kitchen knife can cut off the monster's limbs, I guess they won't dare to attack us easily. Yes, perhaps they will leave after they can't take advantage of us. In that case, we will be safe." Yoon Chujio shook her head disapprovingly. Those monsters won't give up easily. They'll definitely think of a way to force us out or attack us. Let's take advantage of the fact that they haven't attacked us yet. Everyone rest well and rest up to prepare for the next battle. Although some people thought that Yoon Chujio was exaggerating, they still began to meditate on the spot to recover their strength. A few hours passed, but the monsters did not make any further moves. They could only hear the occasional hissing sound coming from the cave entrance. No one knew what the monsters were discussing. Just when everyone thought that they would be safe for the time being, there were scattered rocks falling from the cave ceiling. Everyone cried out in surprise, What's going on? Is this place going to collapse?" An ominous feeling rose in everyone's heart. Could it be that those monsters were planning to collapse the cave? Those monsters were huge, so it was not too difficult for them to collapse the stone wall. Everyone's faces were filled with fear. If they did not rush out, they would be crushed to death by the rocks. If they rushed out, they would be eaten by the demonic beasts guarding the entrance of the cave. It was over. They were dead meat. Some people once again complained about Yoon Chujio. They felt that it was because of her decision that everyone was in trouble. However, they were shocked by Yoon Chujio's previous actions. Although they were displeased, they did not dare to say it out loud. Yoon Chujio frowned. She had still underestimated the brute strength of these monsters. They could even shake a mountain. How could there be such a monster in this heavenly Luo secret territory? Of course, now was not the time to think about this. The most important thing now was to get out of the current predicament. If they waited here, there would only be one outcome waiting for them, and that was to be crushed to death by the rocks. However, if they rushed out, they would only die. Although her large kitchen knife could cut off the monster's limbs, there was only one large kitchen knife, so its effect was limited. Moreover, the tunnel was narrow, so there were so many people, so they would not be able to rush out in a short time. The situation was in a stalemate. Everyone avoided the falling rocks while looking at Yoon Chujio anxiously. Some people could not stand the torture and rushed into the tunnel like crazy. They were hoping to get lucky. The monster's attention was on the stone wall, so they might be able to rush out. However, not long after, the screams of those people were heard. Apparently, they had been killed by the monsters. Yoon Chujio had never encountered such a helpless situation. Was there really no solution to this situation? There was definitely no way out from the front. It would be great if there was a back door. Wait, back door? Yoon Chujio held a large kitchen knife and knocked on the surrounding rock walls. She tried to cut down a rock, and her eyes immediately lit up. The rock in this mountain was not particularly hard. Perhaps she could really cut out a back door because she had Xiao Hei. Moreover, among the demonic beasts that she had contracted before, there were also many demonic beasts that were good at digging holes. As long as she dug out a side tunnel, they would be able to escape from the encirclement of the monsters without anyone noticing, and then find another place to hide. Thinking of this, Yun Chujo said to the crowd, "Which of your spiritual beasts knows how to dig holes? Quickly release them and listen to my arrangements." Needless to say, there were indeed a few people who knew how to dig holes and release them one after another. Although the crowd felt that Yun Chujia's method was not bad, they felt that it would probably take a few days to dig a tunnel with just a few demon beasts. By then, the daylily would have turned cold and they would have died long ago. At this moment, Yun Chujo raised her hand, and a sky drill ground mouse was released. With another wave of her hand, another sky drill ground mouse was released. Yun Chujo had also mixed Xiao Hei in. There were a lot of monsters anyway, so no one would pay too much attention to it. Yun Chujo rolled her eyes and said to the crowd, to prevent the monsters from noticing something wrong, "You guys are now crying for help or something. The more miserable you are, the better." The crowd couldn't care less about being embarrassed anymore. According to Yun Chujo, they were crying and howling. In any case, they were indeed afraid, so they were quite sincere. With more than 400 people howling at the same time, the sound was quite loud, and the monsters outside could be heard. When the monsters heard the movement inside the cave, they started to use their limbs and bodies to beat the stone wall, trying to force the group out as soon as possible. When Yun Chujo asked the monsters to dig the cave, they shouldn't go directly to the back of the mountain. Instead, they should go out diagonally. This way, the group could stay away from the monsters so that they wouldn't be discovered immediately. The stones above their heads were falling more and more heavily. Yun Chujo simply told everyone to gather together and take turns to form a spiritual energy barrier. This way they could still hold on for a while. 2 hours later, the tunnel was opened. The reason why they were so fast could only mean that their luck had finally come to an end. When they were halfway through digging, Xiao Hei discovered a cave nearby. Hence, the demonic beasts decided to set the exit in the cave. This saved more than half of their time. Everyone climbed into the tunnel one by one and entered the cave. Yun Chujo carefully walked out of the cave. If she listened carefully, she could vaguely hear the sound of monsters hitting rocks from afar. It was estimated that this place was about 10 miles away from the original cave. It was just that one was on the south side of the mountain, and the other was on the north side of the mountain. The monsters would soon realize that everyone had disappeared. When the time came, they would definitely search everywhere. They had to move quickly. Yun Chujo looked into the distance. This was still a valley with some sparse trees. There was a large patch of bushes not far from the cave. There was no large forest. To say the least, even if there was a forest, it would not be able to block the attacks of the 8 monsters. Yun Chujo was really worried. There were still 10 days left until the end of the trial. How could she survive these 10 days? She did not know where the other students of the 2 academies had gone. Could it be that they were the only ones who had been teleported here? If they could gather everyone, it would not be so difficult to deal with these monsters. Yun Chujo suddenly slapped her thigh. She was really stupid. Comparing the number of people and the number of monsters, it could be considered the opposite. If they did not have enough people, then they could think of a way to divide the monsters and attack them. It was not a problem for them to deal with one monster with 400 people. Now the key was how to lure the monsters into the ambush one by one. Yun Chujo rolled her eyes and used her divine sense to give a few instructions to the queen bee. Then, a large group of Tianluo poisonous bees flew towards the place where the monsters were. Among the 8 monsters, 6 were slapping the mountain. The remaining 2 were guarding the entrance of the cave to prevent Yun Chujo and the others from escaping. The 6 monsters were slapping the mountain with all their might when they saw a large group of sky luo wasps flying towards them from all directions. Although they had thick skin and were not afraid of the sky luo wasps, their eyes could not withstand it. They kept using their limbs to drive away the sky luo wasps. However, these sky luo wasps were very difficult to deal with. They were buzzing around them, looking for an opportunity to attack their eyes. The monsters could not be bothered. One of the monsters was stung in the eye and immediately flew into a rage. They decided not to hit the mountain anymore and started to fight with the wasps. The wasps were probably afraid and started to retreat. The monster was not going to let them go and wanted to kill all these little things. It chased after them relentlessly. The swarm of bees had climbed over the mountain, and the monster had also climbed to the north of the mountain. If the swarm of bees had retreated quickly, the monster would have stopped chasing them. However, the Skynet poisonous bees would return after running a distance and continue to provoke them. The monster was completely enraged and chased after them relentlessly. Yun Chujio and the others were already hiding in the bushes. They were holding a few ropes in their hands. This was a new idea that Yun Chujio had come up with. Although the monster had many arms and legs, it relied on its forelegs to move. As long as they could restrain its forelegs first, they would be able to find a way to attack its eyes and arms and legs. The ground began to tremble slightly. From afar came the hissing sound of the monster. Everyone's heart was pounding nervously. The monster was here. Could they succeed? The swarm of bees gradually led the monster to the encirclement. The angry monster did not expect an ambush at all. It thought that Yun Chujio and the others were still trapped in the cave. The monster was tripped by several ropes. It wanted to stand up, but its forelegs were entangled by several ropes. At the same time, several ropes were tied to the monster's limbs. The reason why Yun Chujio did this was that she was afraid that the remaining monsters would notice the spiritual attacks. Since the spiritual attacks of the others were useless, she might as well use the most primitive and brutal method. Although the monster was strong, it could still hold on for a while with dozens of people controlling one of its limbs. Yun Chujio took advantage of this short moment to raise the kitchen knife and cut at the monster's eyes. Although she did not know where the monster's vital point was, it was definitely right to blind its eyes first. The large kitchen knife could even cut off its limbs, so it was not difficult to blind the monster's eyes. As the monster screamed in pain, black juice flowed out of its eyes. Yun Chujio did not care about whether it was dirty or not, and cut the monster several times. Initially, the monster was still struggling fiercely. However, when Yun Chujio accidentally cut off a small protrusion on its head, the monster was like a deflated rubber ball. It turned into a flat piece of skin and collapsed on the ground. Died just like that. Before everyone could recover from their shock, the monster that was originally lying on the ground had turned into a wisp of black fog and disappeared. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. This was beyond their understanding. Shouldn't the monster be a corpse after it died? It was still acceptable for it to turn into a flat skin, but how did it turn into a black fog? Yun Chujio had a strong foreboding feeling. There was probably something more terrifying behind these monsters. However, no matter what, everyone was still very happy that they had killed one monster. This was a good start. Most importantly, they had found the vital point of the monster. As long as they cooperated well, they should be able to kill even two monsters at once. Yun Chujio used the same trick again and let the bee swarm move out again. As expected, another monster was tricked by the bee swarm and was lured into an ambush. The process was the same as the previous one. Moreover, due to the team's better coordination, the monster was killed in less than 15 minutes this time. After the monster died, it first collapsed on the ground, then turned into a black fog and disappeared. Yun Chujio did not release the swarm of bees again. After using the same trick twice, she could not use it again. Because if she did not do it well, it would be self-defeating. She had to think of other ways. Yun Chujio glanced at everyone. Which one of you is willing to lure the monsters over? Everyone did not expect Yun Chujio to actually want to use humans as bait this time. They looked at each other and remained silent. This was not a joke. If they were not careful, they would lose their lives. Yun Chujio snorted coldly. You guys are still not comparable to those Tianluo poisonous bees. They had just killed quite a number of worker bees. Don't tell me that they are just demonic beasts. If it weren't for them, our lives would have been lost long ago. Now we are comrades in arms fighting side by side. We have already gone to the demonic beasts twice. This time it's our turn. Don't tell me that your guts are not as big as these little things? Everyone's faces were filled with shame. Finally, a small number of people expressed their willingness to be bait. Yun Chujo remembered these people and picked a few who had high spiritual power. The few of you follow me. The rest of you lie in ambush. When everyone heard Yun Chujio's words, they were all stunned. They thought that Yun Chujo would not risk her life at all. They did not expect that she would also be the bait. Some people's faces immediately turned red, feeling extremely ashamed of their own thoughts. Yun Chujo didn't have the time to care about them. She told Jinji and Xue Wuji to pay attention to some things before leading them to the monster's location. Yun Chujo took out the veil from her storage ring and gestured for everyone to put it on. Although they didn't know what Yun Chujio's intention was, they still put it on obediently. The reason why Yun Chujo asked everyone to put on the veil was to prevent the monster from recognizing them. In less than an hour, they arrived at the north side of the mountain where the monsters were. Yun Chujo said in a low voice, "Pretend to be new here and say something to attract the attention of the monsters." The few of them were in a dilemma. What should they say? Yun Chujo looked at them speechlessly and could only find a topic to talk about. She deliberately made her voice sharper and said, "Did you hear some strange sounds? It seems that something is hitting the mountain from the south side of the mountain." Then everyone replied dryly, "Ah, you're right, there really is a strange sound. Yeah, this sound is so strange. It's really strange. Really strange." The corner of Yun Chujio's mouth twitched. These people's acting skills were really too bad. If it weren't for Xue Wuji and Jinji staying behind to guard the place, she wouldn't have brought these people here no matter what. However, those monsters didn't know much about the ways of the world, so it didn't matter if they were wrong. Fortunately, after these people spoke a few words, they weren't so nervous anymore, and their conversation became more normal. They also raised their voices under Yun Chujio's signal. The remaining 6 monsters had been in a stalemate with Yun Chujio and the others for a long time, so they were already hungry. When they heard someone speak, they immediately drooled. The 6 monsters hissed and discussed for a while before sending 2 monsters over the mountain peak to hunt for food. When Yun Chujio saw the 2 monsters appear, she screamed sharply, "Oh my god! Monsters! It's monsters! Run!" Although she was shouting happily, everyone did not run fast. It was only when the 2 monsters were about to climb to the foot of the mountain that they quickened their pace. The 2 monsters hissed and chased after them. Yun Chujio and the others could have lured them to the ambush circle safely as long as they maintained their current speed. However, at this moment, one of the students was so nervous that he tripped over his left leg and his right leg and fell on the ground. He was so unlucky that he hit his head on a rock and passed out with a lot of blood. Everyone was in a dilemma. Time was extremely precious. If they were to bring the fallen student along, they would definitely delay the speed of the entire team. However, if they were to leave him alone, they would feel bad. Everyone turned their gazes towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio looked at the direction of the wind and said, "Carry him on your back. I have a way to delay the speed of these 2 monsters." It was not appropriate for everyone to ask. One of the stronger ones carried the man on his back and ran forward with all his might. When he could not run, another person would carry him. In this way, everyone's speed decreased a lot. Moreover, the smell of blood caused the 2 monsters to become even crazier. They were getting closer and closer to everyone. Everyone could not help but feel anxious. They asked anxiously, "Yun Chujio, don't you have a way? Use it quickly. Otherwise, we won't take our lives." Yun Chujio said softly, "It's no use if we're too far away. Let's wait a little longer." Everyone did not know what she was up to, so they could only run forward desperately. The 2 monsters saw that they were getting closer and closer to them. They could not help but let out excited hisses. One of them could not wait to swing its limbs to attack everyone. Everyone was so scared that they screamed. They were just a little bit away from being hit. Yun Chujio felt that the time was ripe. She threw the bodies of the 2 monsters. The 2 monsters caught the bodies of the monsters with their arms and legs. They sniffed and stuffed the bodies into their mouths. Yun Chujio then threw the bodies of the 2 monsters, but the monsters still swallowed them. Yun Chujo curled the corners of her mouth. This time, she did not throw the bodies of the animals. Instead, she threw 2 broken sacks. The 2 monsters thought that Yun Chujo was still throwing the dead bodies of the animals and habitually caught them with their arms and legs. The sacks had holes in them. When the monster's arms and legs pinched them, the chili inside the sacks instantly sprayed out. The monster was about to put it into its mouth, but the result was obvious. It was so hot that it could not open its eyes. However, Yun Chujo was still gloating in front of them. Hey, do you guys think this chili is delicious? I still have some here. Do you guys want more? It looks weird, what the hell? Since you have legs, why do you still have arms and legs? It's so ugly. Do you guys dare to continue chasing? My chili is going to kill you. The 2 monsters did not want to continue chasing. Firstly, their eyes were hurting from the heat. Secondly, there were so many people in the cave. There was no need to run so far for these little ants. However, they were angered by Yun Chujo's words. They roared and started chasing again. Everyone took advantage of this gap to run far away. Moreover, they were getting closer and closer to the ambush, so they were not so nervous anymore. They cursed in their hearts. They thought that Yun Chujo had a good idea. But it turned out that she used chili noodles. Although this method was a little damaged, it really worked. The 2 monsters were eager to take revenge, so they did not notice the ambushers and were caught by the rope. Yun Chujo raised her knife and slashed down one at a time. After cutting off the small protrusions on the 2 monsters' heads, the 2 monsters turned into black fog and disappeared. The people who followed Yun Chujo sat on the ground and panted heavily. Yun Chujo was not unusual because she was often attacked, and her ability to escape was quite profound. Yun Chujo calculated that there were only 4 monsters left, so there was no need to hurry to attract them. She estimated that when they realized that something was wrong, they would scatter and search, and then she would think of ways to kill them separately. Yun Chujo was right. Although the 4 monsters were confused as to why the other 4 had not returned for a long time, they did not pay too much attention to it. They only cared about the humans trapped in the cave. Finally, with a boom, the cave collapsed. The 4 monsters immediately used their arms and legs to clean up the cave entrance, wanting to get the people inside out and eat them. However, when they finally finished clearing the hole after almost a day, they did not see a single person. They were so angry that they almost died. Therefore, the 4 monsters began to split up and search for Yun Chujo and the others. Yun Chujo and the others waited patiently. One monster killed another. It took about 3 days to kill all 4 monsters. When everyone saw that the monsters had been killed, they were immediately overjoyed and filled with laughter. However, Yun Chujo felt that things were not too optimistic. There were still 5 days before the trial ended. 5 days was too long. Anything could happen. Moreover, those monsters were too strange. She had never heard of anything that turned into black fog after it died. She subconsciously thought of the Shui Mo from the Heavenly Axe Pit. That Shui Mo was a red fog-like creature. Then, could these monsters also be a kind of demon? However, didn't they say that the devil died out hundreds of thousands of years ago? Previously, it was only because it was suppressed by the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe that it didn't die. Then what was going on? Yun Chujo told everyone about her worries. Although everyone felt a little uneasy, they felt that there shouldn't be anything else other than these 8 monsters, so they didn't pay too much attention to it. Everyone temporarily stayed in the cave. Whether it was day or night, Yun Chujo arranged for 10 people to be on guard in case anything unexpected happened. That night it was a full moon. The moon in the sky was big and round, and the ground was bright and clear. Everything seemed peaceful and quiet. On such a quiet night, the people in the cave heard several screams one after another. Then, a person in charge of the guard rolled and crawled into the cave. There are monsters. A large group. Before that person finished his sentence, a monster crawled in. The cave where Yun Chujo and the others were in this time was not very narrow, so the monster easily crawled in. Put on the rope. Yun Chujo saw that everyone was stunned and hurriedly shouted. Although everyone was caught off guard, fortunately, they cooperated well in the past few days. They immediately followed the original arrangement of the team, and tied the monster's limbs to give Yun Chujo a chance to kill it in one hit. When Yun Chujo saw that the monster's limbs were controlled, she jumped up and used the kitchen knife to cut off the small protrusion on the monster's head. The monster immediately collapsed on the ground and turned into black fog before disappearing. Before everyone could catch their breath, another monster crawled in. They could not help but feel lucky that the cave entrance was not very wide. Otherwise, if many monsters crawled in together, they would be dead for sure. They used their methods to kill another one, but another one crawled in. Everyone was numb from the killing. It was as if the monsters were endless. No one knew how many they had killed. Everyone's spiritual power and physical strength were quickly dissipating. Moreover, everyone had to cooperate with each monster they killed, so they did not have the chance to rest. Especially Yun Chujo. Every monster needed her to kill, so her physical strength and spiritual power were also depleting the fastest. No matter how abnormal she was, she could not hold on any longer. Yun Chujo knew that this was not the way to go on. It seemed like there was no way to kill all these monsters. Even if they were tired, they would die from exhaustion. She had to think of a way to end this once and for all. Even if she could think of a way, it would be good if she could take a breather. Yun Chujo suddenly remembered the method she had used in the trial tower. This cave could only allow one monster to enter. As long as the monster in front did not die, the monster in the back would not enter. Then she would let it die half dead. When Yun Chujo thought of this, she did not cut off all the little protrusions on the monster's head. Instead, she only cut off half of it. Yun Chujo was purely experimenting. She did not know how the monster's little protrusions would look like when half of them were cut off. After the monster's half-cut protrusions, it seemed to have become silly. Its eyes became dull and listless, and its limbs drooped involuntarily. How to describe it? It was as if a living person had become a puppet. A thought flashed through Yun Chujo's mind, but she could not catch it in the blink of an eye. Yun Chujo panted, indicating that everyone could take a breather. Everyone panted heavily. They did not dare to slack off too much, so they took turns to rest. There was always someone pulling the rope on the monster's limbs, afraid that the monster would suddenly explode. A hissing sound came from outside the cave. Obviously, the other monsters were asking about the situation inside the cave. As the monster inside did not respond, the hissing sound outside became impatient. Yun Chujo was secretly happy. No matter how impatient it was useless. Unless it was desperate and dragged the monster out of the cave, it would not be able to come in. After more than 2 hours, Yun Chujo saw that everyone had almost recovered. She was afraid that the monster outside the cave would discover something, so she took care of the monster inside the cave. Then, she did the same thing and cut off half of the small protrusions of the new monsters. Everyone was given another 2 hours of rest. Everyone admired Yun Chujo. She could even think of such a method. She was really smart. Yun Chujo felt that although this method could fool them for a while, it was not a long-term solution. Therefore, she summoned a few Skynet poisonous bees and let them go out to check how many monsters were outside. Yun Chujo felt that things were really illogical. According to the demon beasts, she had never seen these monsters before. It was as if these monsters had appeared out of thin air. Soon, the Skynet poisonous bees flew back and told Yun Chujo what they saw. Yun Chujo's expression immediately changed. According to the Skynet poisonous bees, there were actually monsters everywhere outside. Moreover, not only did those monsters eat demonic beasts, they even ate some trees and herbs. Yun Chujo frowned. She remembered that the 8 monsters did not eat trees and herbs. Why did these monsters even eat trees and herbs? Were they too hungry? Or were they mutated? They would not eat rocks in the end, right? Yun Chujo felt that she could stand shoulder to shoulder with Xiao Hanyo, because just as she thought of this, there was a cracking sound coming from outside. Those monsters actually began to eat rocks. When everyone heard this creepy sound, their legs immediately went soft. If these rocks were eaten clean, they would really have no way to survive. No matter how they thought about it, they seemed to only have a dead end. Yun Chujo's mind was blank. Now they were like fish on a chopping board. They could only let the monsters slaughter them. Crack, crack. The sound of the monsters gnawing on the rocks grew louder and louder. Apparently, they had already gnawed off a large part of the rocks. The cave was dead silent. Everyone could already feel the shadow of death. They did not expect that after fighting for so many days, they would still not be able to escape the fate of being eaten. There were only 4 days left until the end of the trial, but they could only watch as the monsters ate them. They were really unwilling. Yun Chujo tried to take out the small stone that the cliff of Tiandao gave her, but there was no reaction as expected. Yun Chujo clenched her fists and stared at the monster with a cold expression. She felt that there was only one way to do this, and that was to establish a temporary contract with the monster. Only in this way could they know the origins of these monsters and think of a way to survive. Yun Chujo shared her thoughts and everyone looked at her as if she was a lunatic. Regardless of whether this monster was a demonic beast or not, even if it was a demonic beast, its spiritual power level was much higher than Yun Chujia's. In the end, not only would the contract fail, she might even be devoured by this monster. Although Xue Wuji and Jinji knew that Yun Chujo was a monster, they were still worried. However, at this point it seemed that there was no other way to survive. Yun Chujo immediately tried to establish a spiritual connection with the monster. Just as Yun Chujia's spiritual sense entered the monster's spiritual sense, it was entangled by a wisp of black fog. The wisp of black fog tried to devour Yun Chujia's spiritual sense like a ghost. Yun Chujia's primordial spirit immediately struck at the wisp of black fog with purple lightning. The wisp of black fog dissipated after being struck by several small lightning bolts. In everyone's eyes, the monster had actually disappeared into thin air. Yun Chujo did not have time to think carefully before another monster crawled in. Yun Chujo had everyone use ropes to control it and then directly sent their spiritual sense into it. Sure enough, it was exactly the same as before. A wisp of black mist wrapped around Yun Chujia's spiritual sense. After being struck by the lightning bolt, the monster disappeared into thin air. A very bold idea emerged in Yun Chujia's mind. To deal with these monsters, she simply needed to use spiritual power or brute force. She only needed to use her spiritual sense to attack. Therefore, when another monster crawled in, before everyone could control the monster, Yun Chujia's spiritual sense directly probed into the monster's spiritual sense and directed several bolts of lightning at the wisp of black fog. As the black fog dissipated, the monster disappeared into thin air again. Yun Chujo was so excited that she trembled slightly. When another monster came in, Yun Chujo waited until everyone controlled the monster. She cut off half of the small protrusions and told them about her discovery. Everyone felt that the matter was really unbelievable. Only Yun Chujia's divine sense could disperse the black fog? Or could everyone? A few of the more daring ones decided to give it a try. In any case, they could just sever their spiritual sense. At most, their spiritual sense would be damaged. The results of their attempts made everyone very excited. Although their operations were not as easy as Yun Chujia's, it was still not a problem for 7 or 8 people to work together to deal with a monster's spiritual sense. Thus, everyone began to speed up the process of killing the monster. Everyone was organized into several groups, so that they would not be too tired and their efficiency would be higher. Everyone was pleasantly surprised to find that as the number of monsters killed increased, their spiritual sense also increased a little. This would be very beneficial for their future cultivation. In the end, no monster dared to approach the cave. Everyone was elated. There were only 3 days left until the end of the trial. They only needed to endure another 3 days and they would be completely safe. Yun Chujia's heart was not very stable. She felt that there must be something even more terrifying behind these monsters. What was it? Not only did Yun Chujo arrange for the students to stand guard at the entrance of the cave, she also arranged for several Tianluo poisonous wasps to patrol the surroundings to prevent them from being caught off guard by the monsters. When the moon rose, a Tianluo poisonous wasp flew in and informed Yun Chujo that all the monsters outside had disappeared. After Yun Chujo heard it, Not only was she not excited, but the worry in her heart was even greater. She felt that an even greater danger was about to arrive. What Yun Chujo did not know was that at the same time, in the other regions of the Tianluo mystic realm, the students who were being hunted down and tortured suddenly realized that those terrifying monsters had disappeared. Everyone had survived the disaster, and could not help but rejoice that they had survived. Compared to the regions where Yun Chujo and the others were located, the monsters in these regions were much fewer. There were only about 5 or 6 of them. Even so, many people were killed and injured because they could not find their vital points. Yun Chujo got up and went outside the cave. The originally lush trees had been eaten by the monsters, leaving only bare soil. Even a large part of the rocks on the cave had been eaten away. Yun Chujo climbed to the top of the mountain and looked into the distance. What she saw could only be described as a complete mess. Other than the mountain range that was still alive, everything else was eaten up by the monsters. Yun Chujo frowned. Those monsters didn't seem to be demonic beasts, so where did all the food they ate go? Why did they suddenly change so much and even mutate again? They were obviously transformed by the black fog. What was that black fog? Yun Chujo felt that her mind was filled with questions. She sat on the mountaintop for a while, but she could not think of anything. Yun Chujo sighed, climbed down the mountaintop, and walked into the cave. She did not see the students guarding the entrance of the cave, so she could not help but frown. She continued to walk into the cave, thinking that she should scold the students who had left their posts without permission. Then she was stunned. Everyone in the cave had disappeared. The cave was empty. Only the bonfire on the ground was still burning, but everyone had disappeared into thin air. Yun Chujo rubbed her eyes. Brother Wuji, Beauty Jinji, Sister Bingyu. Yun Chujo called out several times, but only her own reply came back. Yun Chujo quickly asked the patrolling Tianluo poisonous bees. The Tianluo poisonous bees said that they had been patrolling outside the cave. They did not know what was happening inside the cave at all. Yun Chujo knocked on the cave and did not find anything wrong. Besides, if there was anything wrong, there would not be an accident now. She felt that the disappearance of these people must be related to the thing behind the monster. Where did it take the people? If Yun Chujo was a cold-hearted person, she could completely ignore the lives of those people. She only needed to wait for 3 more days and she would be able to leave safely. Unfortunately, she was not. Although she was sometimes wicked and evil, she could not leave her friends to die. She knew that if she did not go and save them, Xue Wuji and Jinji would only die. Yun Chujia's mind was in a mess. She had no clue at all. These people seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Where would she go to save them? Yun Chujo walked around the cave like a headless fly for dozens of rounds before she finally calmed down. No matter how anxious she was, it was useless. She had to calm down before she could think of an effective solution. The most important thing now was to find out where they were trapped. This Tianluo mystic realm was so vast that it had no boundaries. Even the area they were in was very vast. Where exactly had Xue Wuji and the others been taken to? Yun Chujo was in a hurry to think of a feasible solution. She released all the poisonous wasps of Tianluo from her spirit beast bag. There were hundreds of thousands of them. She told them to quickly spread out and report to her as soon as there was anything wrong. These poisonous wasps of Tianluo immediately flew away. Yun Chujo knew that she still had a tough battle to fight, so she forced herself to close her eyes to meditate so that she could reserve enough energy. An hour passed, but there was no news. 2 hours passed, but there was still no news. 4 hours, 6 hours. When the sun rose finally, a Tianluo poisonous wasp sent the news. According to it, it found a cave with black fog drifting away, and the black fog looked similar to the black fog when the monster dissipated. Yun Chujo was immediately delighted, and rode the demon beast to the location pointed out by the Skynet wasp. The demon beasts ran with Yun Chujo on their backs as fast as they could. They were very glad that if it were not for Yun Chujo, they would have been devoured by the monster by now. If they didn't destroy the thing behind the monsters, they wouldn't be able to survive in the future. Therefore, they were now like grasshoppers on the same rope as Yun Chujo. They could only support each other in order to fight their way out. Yun Chujo changed several demon beasts in succession, and finally reached the position pointed out by the Skynet poisonous bee at the fastest speed. The Skynet poisonous bee was very smart. It hid behind a mound. In addition to its small size, it wasn't discovered by the black fog that was spreading everywhere. Yun Chujo, on the other hand, could not do that. Her target was too big, and she was discovered by the black fog as soon as she got close. The black fog immediately turned into several monsters and pounced on Yun Chujo. Yun Chujo also went all out. She divided her spiritual sense into several parts and attacked the monsters separately. If others knew that Yun Chujo did this, they would definitely call her a lunatic. Spiritual sense was extremely important and extremely fragile. If her spiritual sense was killed, her spiritual sense would be severely injured. At worst, it would hinder her cultivation in the future. At worst, she would become a fool. However, Yun Chujo had no other choice at this moment. She was alone. She could only use this method to quickly kill those monsters. Fortunately, the purple lightning in Yun Chujo's spiritual sense seemed to be the nemesis of the black fog. In the blink of an eye, the black fog in the spiritual sense of the monsters was destroyed by the lightning, and the monsters disappeared into thin air. Yun Chujo withdrew her spiritual sense, holding a large kitchen knife in her hand, and carefully approached the cave. As soon as she approached the cave, Yun Chujo smelled the thick smell of blood. Her head buzzed. Was she too late? Yun Chujo thought that Xue Wuji and Jin Ji had met with misfortune. Her eyes turned red, and there was even a faint sound of purple lightning crackling inside. Yun Chujo did not notice the strange phenomenon in her eyes. At this moment she only had one thought, and that was to save people. This cave was not formed naturally because Yun Chujo found that the ground was actually paved with green stone slabs. What frightened Yun Chujo the most was that there was actually a pattern of the resurrection lily on the green stone slabs. Was it the Divine Devil Hall again? Why were there frequent traces of the Divine Devil Hall in the ancient mystic realm? Yun Chujo had a vague idea in her heart, but she felt that it was very absurd. She felt that her heart had been too tense recently, which was why she had such an absurd idea. Yun Chujo originally thought that there would be another black fog coming to stop her in the tunnel, but she did not expect that she had actually reached the end of the tunnel very smoothly. At the end of the tunnel was a wide stone hall. Yun Chujo did not have the time to examine the structure of the stone hall, because she felt that the blood in her body was about to freeze. Xue Wuji and the others were fixed on the stone wall. Each of their chests had been cut open, and there was a limb sucking blood on the wound. These limbs belonged to a red monster. The monster's body was coiled on a stone platform, and its appearance was exactly the same as the previous monsters. However, the color was more gorgeous, and there was a black horn on its head. Yun Chujo jumped up and raised the kitchen knife, slashing at the black horn on the monster's head. She felt that the black horn must be the monster's weakness. The monster hissed and sneered, but it did not release its blood-sucking limbs. The black horn on its head emitted countless black fog and wrapped around Yun Chujo. The black fog did not turn into a monster, but directly invaded Yun Chujo's spiritual sense. The intention was obvious, it was to devour Yun Chujo's spiritual sense. After the monster hissed and sneered, it said in human language, "Little girl, I originally wanted to capture you and bring you back, but I didn't expect you to be lucky enough to escape. You are really stupid. You actually came to me by yourself. Since that's the case, I will fulfill your wish. The blood of the heavenly thunder spirit root is like a tiger with wings to help me recover my strength." Although Yun Chujo wanted to scold him, she was currently engaged in a chaotic battle in her spiritual sense, so she had no time to pay attention to him. At first, the monster was still feeling smug, but soon it couldn't feel smug anymore. That was because it realized that not only did Yun Chujo's spiritual sense contain purple lightning, but there were also countless weapon spirits. Those Qi-Ling had been hungry for a long time. They did not dare to devour Yun Chujo's spiritual sense. Now that they saw the black fog, they were like hungry wolves. They were all Qi-Ling who attack spirit or immortal weapons. They had always tried to fight. Now that they finally had a chance, they were naturally elated. Yoon Chujo saw that she did not need to do anything. She simply withdrew her spiritual sense and left the black fog to the Qi-Ling to deal with. Yoon Chujo raised her hand and released all the demonic beasts. Attack together. Kill it. The monster couldn't believe its eyes. How could this stinky girl have such a large number of demonic beasts? And they were all high-level demonic beasts? No wonder the monsters it sent out before didn't catch any high-level demonic beasts. It turned out that they were all in the hands of this stinky girl. In order to survive, the demon beasts began to attack the monster's limbs. Although the monster's limbs were extremely tough, they could not withstand the attacks of so many demon beasts. They had no choice but to stop sucking blood and use their limbs to deal with the demon beasts. Yoon Chujo took the large kitchen knife and slashed at the monster's black horn again. Seeing that the black fog was of limited effect, the monster suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a stream of black poison that was as black as ink towards Yoon Chujo. Yoon Chujo did not dodge. The large kitchen knife in her hand still slashed at the monster's black horn. Crack! The monster's black horn broke. What Yoon Chujo expected did not happen. The monster did not turn into black fog and disappear like the previous monsters. The monster hissed, "Stupid girl. You actually destroyed my devil's horn. However, as long as I absorb the blood of these people and demonic beasts, my devil's horn will grow back. As for you, you've already been poisoned by my venom. You're dead." Yoon Chujo looked at it as if it was an idiot. She raised her kitchen knife and slashed at its right eye. The monster thought that Yoon Chujo was dead for sure after being poisoned by the poison. It did not expect that Yoon Chujo would be able to cut it again. It was too late for it to stop Yoon Chujo with its limbs. The monster's right eye was cut into a bloody mess by Yoon Chujo. It flew into a rage and used its thickest limb to strangle Yoon Chujo, wanting to strangle her to death. Yoon Chujo slashed at the limb, and the bucket-sized limb was instantly cut off, and black juice flowed out from it. The monster was both shocked and scared. You're not human. How can you not be afraid of my venom?" Yoon Chujo still did not say anything. She jumped up again and slashed at the monster's left eye. Although she was usually willing to be arrogant, it did not mean that she did not know her limits. At this time, the priority was to kill the monster. There was no need to argue with it. The monster knew the power of the big kitchen knife. It cunningly rolled up a few students to block in front of it. It laughed strangely and hissed, "Stupid girl, go ahead and attack. Quickly put down the kitchen knife, or I will strangle them to death." The students looked terrified. They did not know what Yoon Chujo would choose. Even if they were sacrificed, it was still acceptable. After all, sacrificing more than 10 of them could save the remaining hundreds of people. Yoon Chujo stared at the monster's left eye. The purple lightning in her eye started to crackle. Both the monster and the students were stunned by this strange scene. How could there be a purple lightning in a human's eye? However, they suddenly felt that their spiritual sense was a little blurry. They tried their best to open their eyes, but they could not. The monster's left eye had also become blurry. Yoon Chujo did not know what was happening in her eyes, but she seemed to be a little distracted when she saw the monster. How could she let go of such a perfect opportunity? Yoon Chujo jumped up and slashed at the monster's left eye. Then, she took the opportunity to cut off the monster's limbs and save the trapped students. Yoon Chujo jumped to the ground and cut off the monster's 4 legs. Then she slashed at the monster. The monster was furious. She didn't believe that it wouldn't die, even if she chopped the monster into meat paste. At first, the monster tried to struggle, but it met a monster. Yoon Chujo's body had been dyed black, but she was still alive and kicking. On the contrary, some students and monsters were accidentally contaminated by the black liquid, and a piece of their flesh was corroded. The monster gradually lost its breath. Just when Yoon Chujo was about to let out a sigh of relief, a cloud of black mist flew out of the monster's body, trying to escape. Yoon Chujo used her spiritual sense to kill the cloud of black mist in a moment of desperation. The cloud of black mist struggled desperately. "Stupid girl. I was about to retreat. Why do you still refuse to let me go?" Aren't you afraid that I will perish together with you? Yun Chujo kept striking at the black fog with purple lightning, sneering, burn myself to the ground? A person like you is at most a rotten egg, what's there to burn? Prepare to die. The black fog hissed, good. Good. Since you're so stubborn, I'll kill you even if I can't get you back. As the black fog spoke, it suddenly began to spread, like a balloon being inflated. Mao Xianqiu suddenly said to Yun Chujo, Master Jingjing said that you must think of a way quickly. Otherwise, if that thing self-detonates, not only you, but the entire Tianluo arcane realm will be finished. Yun Chujia's head was buzzing. Think of a way. Think of a way. She had already used all her strength to attack the black fog with her spiritual sense, but there was no way to completely destroy it in a short period of time. How could she stop it from self-destructing? In a moment of desperation, Yun Chujio used her hand to tear apart the black fog. This fellow's idea was very simple. The balloon would naturally break after it was pierced through. The black fog would make it split into two so it would not be able to explode. The result was obvious. The black fog was not solid, and Yun Chujia's plan to tear the black fog apart completely failed. She was ridiculed by the monster. Hiss hiss. Stupid girl, do you know fear? As long as you stop your spiritual sense attack and let me out, I will stop self-destructing. Otherwise, all of you present will die. Yun Chujo ignored it. All sorts of ideas flashed through her mind. If she could not tear it apart with her hands, her spiritual sense attack would not be effective for a while. What should she do? The black fog saw that not only did Yun Chujo not stop her attack, but her attack became even more intense. It was instantly angered from embarrassment, and the black fog began to expand rapidly. Seeing this, Yun Chujo was furious. She did not care about anything else and opened her mouth to suck in the black fog. The great void mirror in her dantian was so angry that it almost turned into a corpse. Was this guy afraid that she would not die thoroughly enough? If the black fog expanded in her body, she would be blown into pieces. Just as the great void mirror was thinking about this, Yun Chujo said with her spiritual sense, listen up, the three of you. If you don't think of a way to deal with this monster, you will become homeless stray dogs. Guai Chao in her dantian, black bead in her dantian, supreme void mirror in her dantian. Are you crazy? What does this have to do with them? This is like pushing a duck onto the rack. Yun Chujo was very calculating in her heart. Since the supreme void mirror could see that the monster was about to explode, there must be a way to stop it. Moreover, the Guai Chao could be ignored. The black bead usually ate everything except for food. It was time for it to contribute. Finally, Yun Chujo was not stupid. Of course, she would not risk her life to not swallow the black fog. She only swallowed a part of it to test the reaction of the three in her dantian before making her next move. When the black mist saw Yun Chujo biting it with her mouth, it was dumbfounded. It had thought of many possibilities, but it did not expect Yun Chujo to actually want to suck it into her stomach. Was there something wrong with this stupid girl's head? Wasn't she courting death? But it was fine. Since she was courting death, she would fulfill her wish. Therefore, the small portion of the black mist that was swallowed by Yun Chujo was going to sneak into Yun Chujia's dantian. As long as she blew up the stupid girl's dantian, she would die. Once this stinky girl died, the remaining humans and demonic beasts were nothing to be afraid of. The monster thought very well, but when it reached Yun Chujia's dantian, it was dumbfounded. Fuck, was this a human's dantian? Whose dantian was filled with purple lightning? If it entered the dantian, it would be suicide. The monster quickly wanted to run back. No matter what, any place was much safer than the dantian. It was quite wishful thinking. Before it could run, it was sucked into the dantian by a huge suction force. Then there was no then. Countless purple lightning bolts struck the black fog clean, as if nothing had happened. The leaves of the Guai Chao swayed. Io, this little girl's move actually worked? It was really a blind cat meeting a dead mouse. The grand illusionary mirror glanced at the black bead. It had originally planned to make a move, but it did not expect the black bead to make a move before it did. This old thing was really proactive this time. The monster outside screamed. It did not expect that Yoon Chuji's Dantian actually had purple lightning. What kind of monster was this? The monster was afraid that Yoon Chujo would devour it again, so it changed its face. It said pitifully, "Stinky little girl, little fairy, let's talk it out. As long as you let me go, I will definitely not mistreat you. I will give you all the Tianluo flowers and high-level herbs in the Tianluo mystic realm as a reward. Not only that, I will also agree to 3 conditions. With such a powerful helper like me, you will definitely become a powerhouse in the future." Yoon Chujo bared her little white teeth. "I'm sorry, I'm not interested in any strong person. I'm hungry now." As Yoon Chujo spoke, she began to suck on the black fog. If she let go of this monster, wouldn't she become the farmer who was bitten by a snake? She was not that stupid. The black fog struggled desperately, but Yoon Chuji's spiritual sense had been firmly locked onto it. It had no way of escaping. In addition, Yoon Chujo had sucked all kinds of strange poison in the past, so she had some experience in swallowing things. Not long after, she bit off another part of the black fog. After that part of the black fog was sucked into Yoon Chuji's body, she was afraid that it would be hit by the small lightning in her Dantian, so she planned to explode on the spot and kill Yoon Chujo first. Unexpectedly, there was a huge suction force from her Dantian. She had no choice but to be sucked into her Dantian again, and was struck into nothingness by the small purple lightning. The remaining black fog outside said in a flustered and exasperated manner, "Stinky girl. You are the monster. How do you think they will look at you when they see that you can actually suck me dry? If I were you, I would kill these people to silence them, and then join hands with me to share the glory of eternal life. You should take care of yourself." Yoon Chujo smiled brightly. "Thank you for the reminder. But I still have to eat you because I am even hungrier now. You'll regret it. I curse you to be eternally doomed. You'll die a horrible death." Before the black fog could finish speaking, it was swallowed by Yoon Chujo. Then it met the same fate as the black fog from before. After it was sucked into the Dantian, it was struck into nothingness by the purple lightning. Yoon Chujo looked inside and saw that there was nothing wrong. Then she looked at the people trapped on the ground and the stone wall. "I don't want people to know that I'm not afraid of the black poison and the black fog. So you can swear." Yoon Chuji's voice was very calm, but her tone was unyielding. Everyone obediently swore. It was not because they were aware of it, nor was it because they were grateful. It was because no matter who was forced by the kitchen knife to their neck, they would not dare to refuse. Yoon Chujo saved the person who was fixed to the wall. After letting everyone take the healing pills, she sat on the spot and meditated. Yoon Chujo used this opportunity to make up a story, saying that the monster was struck by lightning and died suddenly. This way she could avoid a lot of trouble. Of course, she still had to tell everyone about the resurrection lily. She could use this excuse to tell Dean Gongsun about Teacher Ma. Yoon Chujo pried off a few pieces of bluestone from the ground and prepared to use them as evidence. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. Yoon Chujo was prying the stone slab when she noticed the movement of the stone table under the monster. Everyone's expression changed. Could there be another monster? Even if Yoon Chujo was a monster, it would be hard enough if another one came. Yoon Chujo held a large kitchen knife and stared at the stone table. Unexpectedly, a pitiful cry for help came from inside. "Help! Help! Quickly save me! I'm the Qiling of this Tianluo mystic realm." "Qiling?" Yoon Chujo frowned. She took out a rolling pin and made it grow longer. Then she hit the stone platform. The stone platform was immediately smashed into several pieces. Only then did everyone realize that the stone platform was empty. There was a strange thing inside. Although that thing looked 70% human-like, it had a pair of huge protruding ears and a furry tail behind it. That thing was tightly bound by the iron chain. It cried, "Good Samaritan, please save me. Please help me untie the chain. I'm the Qiling of this Tianluo mystic realm. As long as you let me go, I'll definitely be rewarded. Everyone looked at Yun Chujio. After this series of events, they had treated Yun Chujio as their backbone. They did not dare to make decisions casually. Yun Chujio glanced at the thing that called itself Qi-Ling and curled her lips. You said that you are the Qi-Ling of Tianluo Mystic Realm. How can you prove it? I think you must be the remnant of that monster. The thing whimpered. Aren't you making things difficult for me? How can I prove that I am me? This is an unreasonable request. If I were the remnant of that thing, would I be trapped here? How to prove it is your own business. If you can't prove it, then I can only kill you to prevent any future troubles. Yun Chujio said with a cold smile. That thing rolled its eyes and stopped crying. Its tone became fierce. Damn girl. Don't refuse the toast with force. I am the Qi-Ling of this Tianluo Mystic Realm. If you don't let me go, none of you will be able to get out. Even if your teleportation formation is useless, you will be trapped here until you die. Some people looked at Yun Chujio when they heard what the thing said. The meaning was obvious. It was better to let the thing go. Otherwise, it would be bad if they were trapped here. Yun Chujio walked to the thing with a big kitchen knife. She rubbed the kitchen knife on the thing's face. Are you threatening me? I dare to kill that monster. What are you, a Qi-Ling? If you really have spiritual power, would you ask us for help? Are you kidding me? The creature's eyes flickered. Although my spiritual power is trapped, I still have a lot of supernatural powers. Otherwise, how do you think you guys got here? Wasn't it me who teleported you here? After the creature finished speaking, it immediately received the resentful gazes of everyone. It was dumbfounded. It's over. It said it was bald. Yun Chujio looked at that thing coldly, but she did not curse it. Instead, she said slowly, you can teleport us away now. That way, no one will look for you to settle the score. Then you can be tied up like this forever. This little posture is quite beautiful. That thing almost passed out. Beautiful? Try being tied up like a dumpling. Although it could teleport Yun Chujio and the others away, no one could help it remove the chains on its body. Although it could teleport people from other areas, it was still worried. Qi-Ling was very shrewd. Although it was trapped under the stone platform, it could still learn everything that had happened. It felt that although the little girl in front of it was a little sinister, she had a kind nature. At the very least, she would not kill it. If she found someone else, then it would be hard to say. Missy, I was wrong. Let's discuss it properly, okay? As long as you save me, I will definitely repay you properly. Qi-Ling was cowardly and decided that no matter what, she would first regain her freedom. Everyone was stunned by the speed at which Qi-Ling changed her expression. She had a threatening expression just a moment ago, but now she had become so obsequious. If she was not tied up, her tail would probably be wagging. Yun Chujio glanced at Qi-Ling. How are you going to repay me? Qi-Ling rolled her eyes. Didn't you come in to pick the Sky Luo flowers? I will give you a lot of Sky Luo flowers. Yun Chujio sneered. Let's talk about the matter of repayment. Tell me about the monster honestly. If you dare to lie, Qi-Ling blinked its eyes and was about to say something. Yun Chujio took the kitchen knife and cut a hole on its ear. This is a warning. Don't think that I don't know what you're planning. If you dare to be dishonest, I'll cut off your ears and fry them. Qi-Ling felt that it was most likely wrong. What kind of character was this? This was a vicious and merciless female devil. Hence it changed its mind. Qi-Ling silently recited the chant in its heart. It was fully convinced that after reciting the chant, these people would all disappear in front of it. After it finished reciting, it sadly discovered that, indeed, almost all the people had disappeared. However, the people it hated the most did not disappear. They were still in front of it. It then remembered that the monster had set up a formation on this stone platform. Otherwise, it would have taken the monster away long ago. Yun Chujio was very smart. When she saw that everyone had disappeared on the spot, she knew that this was the work of the Qi-Ling. With a thought, she also understood the reason why she was not teleported away. Yun Chujio used the kitchen knife to cut the Qi-Ling's big ear again. she said coldly. Fine, you little thing, you actually played tricks on me. Unfortunately, there should be a formation here, right? You didn't teleport me away. How do you think I should punish you? Should I cut off your ear or your tail? The Qi-Ling said in a hurry. Miss, you misunderstood me. I was afraid that after they heard about the benefits I gave you, they would get greedy and treat you badly, so I sent them away. Little thing, do you really believe what you just said? Cut the crap. I want the seeds of the 1,000-leaf golden grade lotus and the dragon blood ginseng. If you can take them out, I'll let you go. Otherwise, I'll kill you with lightning. Qi-Ling shivered. Although it was very tough and would not die easily, it was still a little afraid of lightning. Moreover, this female devil in front of him used a knife to chop at him without a word. It was really deadly. Miss, my Tianluo mystic realm only has the dragon blood ginseng, and not the lotus seeds of the 1,000-leaf golden grade lotus. Can I use other heaven-grade spirit herbs to compensate you? Yun Chuzhou also knew that it was already very good that she could find one of these two herbs. Therefore, after bargaining, Yun Chuzhou extorted a lot of defensive spirit tools and heaven-grade spirit herbs from the Qi-Ling before she reached an agreement. After Yun Chuzhou put the item into her storage ring, she looked at the Qi-Ling with a smile and had no intention of letting it go. Qi-Ling panicked. Miss Yu, why didn't you let me go? Yun Chuzhou looked at it with a smile. Because I didn't keep my word. I bullied Qi-Ling. Do you have any objections? Qi-Ling choked and fainted. It was too shameless. It had never seen such a shameless person. Yun Chuzhou curled her lips and poured a basin of cold water on Qi-Ling. The sad Qi-Ling woke up and cried loudly. You can't bully Qi-Ling like this. Doesn't your conscience hurt? That's enough. Tell me about that monster. As long as you tell me the truth, I'll let you go. Yun Chuzhou said with a serious expression. Qi-Ling pouted and told her what happened. Qi-Ling had always been the ruler of the Tianluo arcane realm. It was living a comfortable life. However, 3 months ago, the monster suddenly broke into the place where Qi-Ling was and brought Qi-Ling to this cave. The Qi-Ling summoned some demon beasts to rescue it, but unfortunately, they were all killed by the monster. Seeing this, the Qi-Ling had no choice but to give up the idea of letting the demon beasts rescue it. It could only place its hopes on the humans who had come for the trial. It was unknown if the monster still had the Qi-Ling, but it didn't do anything other than tying it up and trapping it inside the stone platform. Ever since the monster entered the cave, it had never gone out. It had only recently transformed its spiritual sense into a few monsters to go out to hunt for food. Especially on the night of the full 15th month, it released countless monsters. It seemed that as the monsters ate, its strength became stronger. Miss, I have no choice but to bring those people here. That monster threatened me. If I don't bring those people here, it will kill all the creatures in the other areas. I will surrender, Qi-Ling said guiltily. Yun Chuzhou snorted. It would be a ghost if she believed its nonsense. It was probably because the monster threatened Qi-Ling that Qi-Ling gave in. Yun Chuzhou was concerned about another matter. She asked Qi-Ling, let me ask you, when was this cave built? And who carved the patterns on the green stone slabs on the ground? Qi-Ling looked confused and innocent. Miss, I can swear to God that since I became conscious, I have never found a cave here. If I hadn't been caught and brought here, I wouldn't have known that there was such a place in my territory. Then when did you become conscious? I can't count it. It has existed for tens of thousands of years. Qi-Ling looked a little uncomfortable when he said this. He kept calling her little sister, as if he was pretending to be young. Yun Chuzhou looked at Qi-Ling's expression. It didn't look like it was lying. Could it be that the so-called Divine Devil Hall had existed for tens of thousands of years? Yun Chuzhou felt that the Divine Devil Hall was very strange and dangerous. Su Yanran was taken away by a pair of giant hands that tore through the void. She didn't know where she was taken to. Yun Chuzhou had a feeling that she and Su Yanran would meet again. At that time, Su Yanran's strength would probably become very terrifying. Qi-Ling saw that Yun Chuzhou's expression had changed and did not speak, so he anxiously urged her, Miss, I've told you everything I know. Quickly let me go. If you bring her back, I'll let you go. I won't lie to you this time. Yun Chujo recovered and said to Qi Ling brought Xue Wuji and the others back and looked at Yun Chujo expectantly. Yun Chujo curled her lips. Little thing, why don't you learn your lesson? I'm just teasing you. Qi Ling. Damn it, it didn't want to live anymore. No one should stop it. It decided to die of stupidity. Xue Wuji and the others looked at the scene in front of them in confusion. Why was it that after a while the Qi Ling was like an eggplant that had been hit by frost? Wasn't he quite lively before? Enough! Stop pretending to be dead. These people were all brought here by you. You can't let them be scared for nothing, right? Hurry up and get some compensation for them. This time I promise I won't lie to you. Yun Chujo used the tip of her foot to kick the Qi Ling that was pretending to be dead. Qi Ling sobbed and gave everyone some sky luo flowers and high-level spirit herbs. Then it looked at Yun Chujo pitifully. First swear that you won't take revenge on us. Then I'll let you go. Yun Chujo didn't think that the Qi Ling in front of her was easy to get along with. It was always right to make it swear. The Qi Ling originally had a little thought of revenge, but now it had completely dispelled it because it finally understood that the person in front of it was not human. It was better not to play tricks with her. After Yun Chujo waited for the Qi Ling to make the poison vow, she reached out her hand to help the Qi Ling open the chain. She did not expect that the chain was made of an unknown material. She could not open it at all. Moreover, she did not find any mechanism. Yun Chujo spread her hands helplessly. Little thing, it's not that I have broken my promise. It's just that I can't open the chain that binds you. The Qi Ling was about to howl. It had given away its things and its moral integrity, but in the end it could not open the chain? Was there anything worse than this in the world? Yun Chujia's conscience was rarely on the line. She probed, why don't I throw you into the fire and burn you? Maybe I can melt the chain. Qi Ling rolled his eyes. This time he really fainted. Throw him into the fire and burn him? Are you sure you want to unchain him and not burn him to death? Yun Chujo touched her nose. Was what she said wrong? Qi Ling was not a demon beast. He should not be able to burn him to death, right? Jinji really could not stand it. She walked to Yun Chujia's side and said, Little Joe, try using your big kitchen knife. I think your big kitchen knife should be able to cut the chain. Yun Chujo felt that Jinji's words made sense, so she raised her big kitchen knife and prepared to cut the chain on Qi Ling's body. Coincidentally, Qi Ling woke up at this time. When she opened her eyes, she saw Yun Chujo raising her big kitchen knife to cut it. She was so scared that she rolled her eyes and fainted again. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. It was rare for Qi Ling to be so stupid. Yun Chujo took the big kitchen knife and cut the chain. She did not expect it to cut the chain as easily as cutting a radish. Yun Chujo had the principle of not wasting good things, so she put the chain into her storage ring naturally. Qi Ling woke up again and found that she had regained her freedom. She was so happy that she did not want it anymore. Qi Ling clearly remembered to eat but not to hit. Although Yun Chujo had taught it a lesson previously, ever since Yun Chujo had treated it to a barbecue, it had been following Yun Chujo around. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the trial to end. Yun Chujo cancelled the temporary contract between the demon beast and the queen bee. Then she comforted Qi Ling, who was crying. A white light flashed and they left the Tianluo mystic realm. The people outside the Tianluo mystic realm had no idea what was happening in the mystic realm. When they saw that less than 70% of the people had come out, they all panicked. Everyone talked about their experiences. The people in the other regions had only been attacked by monsters. They did not know anything else. Everyone was confused. In the end, a certain Joe came online and told them everything. Of course, in the process of explaining, there was naturally some work to be done, especially highlighting a certain Joe's lofty sentiment of taking the big picture into consideration and sacrificing herself for others. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.